Why don't our public schools teach that there was no federal income tax in America from 1776 all the way till 1913? We had a temporary tax imposed during the Civil War, and they tried again in 1894. But the income tax was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in Pollock v. Farmers. And that is when Rockefeller got involved. The 16th Amendment that would change the Constitution was proposed by Nelson Aldrich, the father-in-law of John D. Rockefeller Jr., the same guy that proposed the Federal Reserve Act. And of course, the Rockefellers would take over the tax system, the money printing system, the medical system, the education system, and became a driving force behind climate change narratives, to name a few things. But our kids aren't taught any of this in school. Instead, they're taught that Keynesian economic theory is correct, that increased taxes and increased government spending make a strong economy, and even the playing field with the rich, which is pretty convenient for a government education program. And pretty interesting considering then they cement this ideological indoctrination into young people by making emotional arguments like, shouldn't we be able to feed the poor, shelter the poor, provide medical care to the poor, while leaving out the context that before 1913, America had the fastest growing middle class in the world. And what cities like Detroit were like back then compared to what they've become and why that is. But you tell me, who does the education system actually serve? And this is why I'm so into teaching real history, teaching financial literacy, because our kids will do great. We just have to teach them how the world works and what's truly possible. Check out my private homeschool community. And Cubs to Bears, books. ClassicalLearner.com.
Security against any surprise attack agreed with an Israeli request to stop the distribution of a book that contains some pretty damning information about the Israeli Secret Service, the Mossad, if it is true. Here's ABC's John Martin.
The most sensational claim in the book involves this bloody day, the Beirut Marine Barracks bombing. The book says Israeli agents kept vital information from U.S. Marines that might have saved the lives of 241 Americans killed here. Israeli government sources deny this account, but according to the book, an Israeli informant saw a Mercedes truck being fitted with secret panels for explosives. Israeli troops were told to be on the lookout for the truck. But the book says the Israelis intentionally gave the Americans only a vague warning, not mentioning the kind or size of vehicle. The book says Israeli intelligence was willing to let the terrorists succeed to protect their sources and out of contempt for U.S. intelligence. It says agents withheld information on U.S. hostages for similar reasons. In Toronto today, the author was under a court-ordered gag not to discuss the book or the case.
You see, there's two restrictions. There's one restriction that I can't talk about what I learned or have done in the Mossad, and the other restriction is I cannot talk about anything that's in the book.
Israeli officials confirm that Viktor Ostrovsky worked for the Mossad in the 1980s. Alarmed by the contents of the book, they got it temporarily blocked in Canada and the United States.
It's the position of the Israeli government that the information contained in the book could very well lead to the identification of employees of the Mossad and could jeopardize their lives.
But the book's introduction says it does not name active agents and gives only initials. It does say that more than 24 senior Israeli agents routinely gather intelligence in the United States. Late today, the book was put out for sale in New York after the court lifted its restraining order. The publishers claimed victory, but the Israeli embassy said it will still pursue its action against the author. John Martin, ABC News, Washington.
When we come back, South Africa. And
this is something you don't see every day at the junkyard. Check this cool thing out. Got this license plate holder, right? And now it's a step. So you can step up onto it, work on your car, work on your truck. I don't know why they don't make cool shit like this anymore, but this is fucking sweet.
It's a new fuel-injected 4x4. Geo. It's sure-footed with tough stability. Geo. G-E-O-O-O-O. It's a sporty performer. It's a very smart price. Just call. Sold and serviced by select Chevrolet dealers.
No matter what.
This is word for word, verbatim, from the Jerusalem Post by Benjamin Netanyahu in 1990. If we get caught, they will just replace us with a person from the same cloth. So it doesn't matter what you do. America is a golden calf, and we will suck it dry, chop it up, and sell it off piece by piece until there is nothing left but the world's biggest welfare state that we create and control. Why? Because it's God's will. And America is big enough to take the hit, so we can do it again and again and again. This is what we do to the countries that we hate. We destroy them very slowly, but we make them suffer for refusing to be our slave.
Don't flock with the guardrail guy. I'm Steve Eimers, I'm the guardrail guy, and Tennessee has some specific rules. So does MUTCD related to a post like that. First of all, that edge right there can be no more than 4 feet behind that right there. And that I'm not going to get up there with a ladder and drop a plumb line, but that's closer than 4 feet, I believe. The other issue is this kind of post is supposed to be breakaway. There's a rule within Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, is make them live by their own set of rules. I'm going to do some research, but I'm pretty sure that pole is not breakaway, and I'm pretty sure that edge is not 4 feet from that guardrail. It might be petty, but live by the rules. No rules for me, but not for thee. So, hey flock, is your post compliant?
When they divide up the pie in Washington, do you ever wonder who gets the biggest slice? Most of your taxes go to pay for wars, past, present, and future. What does your money buy? It buys you Vietnam, and with it, inflation, unemployment, disunity, and death. It buys you bombs instead of schools, defoliation instead of clean air and water, tanks instead of trains, and destroys homes instead of building them. Isn't it time we got out of their country and back into ours?
This is Layla Haddad, a native Gazan journalist and author of The Gaza Kitchen.
The catches are not as big as they used to be, and that's primarily because the fishermen can't go beyond 3 to 6 nautical miles.
You could continue fishing, but what happens?
They'll shoot at the fishermen, they'll spray cold water at them, they'll destroy their boats, they'll cut their fishing nets, they'll detain them. So it's obviously really risky business. 9 nautical miles, that's where that deep sea channel is, where you're going to get the really good catches. So Gaza is the last Palestinian area with access to the coast. That's really important to remember. You know, you have the West Bank just an hour away, but many of the Palestinians there have never seen the sea, have never been to the sea.
The Sultan family own a small farm in the Badi Sela area of the eastern Gaza Strip. Sultan and her husband are unusual in that they cook together. This is not typical in this part of the world or in this culture. They use their own fresh-killed chickens to make the Gazan classic maklouba, a traditional Palestinian dish comprised of layers of fried eggplant, tomato, potatoes, caramelized onions, and chicken, sautéed, then simmered in a broth with nutmeg, cinnamon, cardamom, and rice. It's a big family. Children, grandchildren, all living under the same roof. And it can get chaotic. So let's talk about food and eat food because it's just sitting here.
Sure,
what do we have here?
Okay, so this is called maqluba or maqluba. Traditionally made with lamb, in this case chicken. لا هم هياكلوا بعدين بس هو عشان التصوير بعدين they're very concerned that we're being very rude and we're not
eat.
we're not allowing the others to eat. He's saying how can you be eating and you're letting everybody
Wow.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Hi, I was told I was supposed to have a lot of fun here.
Ah, don't worry about that. I got you covered. Here, drink this.
Oh, God. Oh, that's like really bitter. What is that?
Oh, yeah, don't worry about that, man. Anyways, listen to this.
That just sounds like someone taking a shit.
Nah, wait a second.
Oh, is that Billie Eilish?
Yeah, it is. That'll be $80,000.
Welcome to the festival of FOMO that costs a fortune. Coachella, the Influencer Olympics, where the audience performs as hard as the artist. Under the punishing sun, everyone's a little thirsty. The road to Indio is an endless wagon train of leased SUVs, glamping vans, and main character energy, all in search of music, meaning, and better lighting. But what exactly are they here for? I figured I'd see for myself. The crowd, a mixtape of festival first-timers, stands with VIP wristbands, Nepo babies, industry plants, and one guy who's definitely a cop, all seeking memories that'll last a lifetime, or at least until they drop their phone in a porta potty. But who am I to judge? I'm doing the same thing, hoping my face ends up on your feed. The fashion, a catwalk in a litter box, women draped in lace like your grandma's tablecloth, glitter-smeared space cadets, and dudes in cowboy cosplay who think roughing it is matcha without oat milk. 6 months planning an outfit only to realize you can't sit down in it. And then there's the ultimate wasteland fuel. But at these prices, you'd swear America was at war with Lebanon. Oh yeah, and there's also music. Sabrina Carpenter, one of the only Disney kids to make it out of the mousetrap alive, now running the world on espresso. Justin Bieber, golden boy turned platinum man. Like Mr. Beast, he was discovered on YouTube. Unlike Mr. Beast, he hasn't built wells in Africa, but he has made millions of women around the world wet. And Karol G, a Latin superstar so dominant that Kid Rock is organizing an alternative festival featuring Rob Schneider, Kanye West, and the hologram of Hulk Hogan. And of course, Merch Madness. Use promo code Bourdain Gang at checkout for 50% off a bandana, an expensive shield to keep the desert out of your lungs. But let's be honest, if you didn't leave with Coachella cough, did you even go? Beyond the glossy chaos, something real breaks through. A shared experience between thousands of people losing themselves under an open sky with the music turned all the way up. So whether you're chasing your youth, your dreams, or the algorithm, remember to live it before you post it. Until next time, drink water, wear sunscreen, and keep an eye on that guy over there. He's definitely a cop.
Do you want your taxes to fund bombing children or protecting child predators? Neither. LOL, girl, you're going to pay, so don't even try to get out of it? What? Do you want to join the military? No. We already signed you up, LOL? Get ready to learn how to operate a drone?
So I just uncork it, roll over, and I can piss right into the tank that's hidden underneath?
That's right, Scott. Just like any other piss mattress system. But what sets the Piss Mattress Pro apart is its proprietary 30-gallon piss tank. That's more than double the volume of any of our competition.
Tired of constantly emptying your piss mattress? Upgrade to the Piss Mattress Pro. With a 30-gallon tank, you can let it sit for months. Order today and receive a free year of our odor protection plan, which delivers cover-up spray right to your door.
So we're trying the odor cover-up spray here because our tank here on set is about a quarter full and it is starting to smell.
That's right, Scott. Our developers recommend that you spray this for about 10 to 20 minutes every couple of hours.
I mean, it's amazing. I barely smell the piss.
Never get out of bed to pee again with the Piss Mattress Pro.
the United States, there is a loophole in the law. Dogs are not required to carry a CCW. A dog can carry a gun at any time, anywhere, even in California. We sell to the FBI, we sell to sheriff's departments. I've clarified it. We formulated these pockets just to fit a handgun for the ladies. Not only are you walking around with your badass dog, but you got a gun on them too, and you don't have to worry about it.
I think I can safely say I've reached the final tier of like the red pilling process, where it's like I'm at the clear pill, I'm at the retard pill, because I have all this information, and there's no, like, it doesn't matter how much you know, because there's nothing you can do about it. So it's like, dude, everything is fucking fake. Our presidents are literally chosen for us. Our elections are fucking rigged and literally don't matter anymore. Jeffrey Epstein somehow won the Powerball twice. The fucking lottery's fake. The Rothschilds wrote all the fucking books. Our history's fucking a complete fucking lie, the deeper you get into that. Everyone they said was evil and fucking crazy actually kind of, I think, had some fucking points. And then all the people that have been accusing people of doing evil shit were the most evil fucking people the whole time. So you know what? Just fucking log off. Who cares? Just go enjoy your life. There's nothing's gonna happen to these people. They're just fucking with us at this point. Both sides are fucking shit.
This might just be the most disturbing new development in AI.
Introducing Objection, the first AI tribunal. Former CIA and FBI agents will investigate. They gather evidence and make it public, permanently. The AI tribunal checks the record and renders the verdict. From the team that bankrupted Gawker, mastermind Aaron D'Souza, and investor Peter Thiel, comes Objection. Truth isn't what goes viral, it's verified. File an objection.
Yeah, I don't know, that gives me the heebie-jeebies just watching that thing. Like, it's, that whole video, sus as hell. They're calling it the Tribunal of Truth. Objection, a new technology platform founded by entrepreneur Aaron D'Souza and backed by investors including Peter Thiel and Balaji Srinivasan, has launched with an explicit mandate to subject the media's claims to systemic investigation and judgment by artificial intelligence. The system combines investigators such as former FBI, NSA, and CIA professionals, adversarial evidence review, and finally AI adjudication. Wow, so basically AI fact-checking funded by the Antichrist to protect his brethren, we shall say.
Flock employees have been accessing the cameras of a children's gymnastics studio in Georgia. Ben Jordan reported on this, and he has been reporting on not only the gross misuse of these cameras, but also their huge security vulnerabilities, demonstrating how hackable they are. The city council happened to be voting on an extension and expansion of their contract with Flock just days later. So I went with Ben to Dunwoody, Georgia, to attend a public hearing and city council meeting. And at this point in time of the meeting, Ben's reporting had been seen by over 1 million people. They're aware that the cameras in the children's gymnasium of the Jewish Community Center are being viewed by Flock employees. And so Ben, at the very beginning, we got there early, at least 15 minutes before the meeting, he put in a request to speak during public comment. I put in a request 5 minutes later. My name was called to speak, but Ben's never was. So they intentionally skipped over Ben's name and called my name, and I don't even live in Georgia. And then after public comment was over, we all kind of looked around like, okay, so they're not going to call Ben's name. And then the mayor publicly attacked my comments specifically. Later in the meeting, the city council voted unanimously to extend and expand their contract with Flock. They didn't even say, we're going to take time to pause and investigate how this could have happened and maybe make some modifications to the contract. No. They clearly wanted to silence the voice in the community who exposed how Flock operates and move forward with their contract with Flock anyway. At this point in time, Bob Carter, who is the guy who logged into and accessed the gymnasium camera and no other camera, has scrubbed his entire social media presence, but the Attorney General, who is running for governor of Georgia, posted saying randomly how great Bob is of a guy. So what the hell is going on here? There wasn't a single person at this meeting who spoke positively about Flock or how much they think this makes the community safe. And the city council, of course, addressed the major story about the gymnasium cameras. They said the JCC was being used by Flock for sales calls and demonstrations with law enforcement, but what kind of a selling point is it that you can use our network to look at children wearing tight clothes, doing splits? It's just disgusting for a lot of reasons, and I don't know why that was a satisfactory response for them to move forward. So what are we supposed to do when a mass surveillance company misuses their technology, lies to the public, and elected officials won't do anything about it but give them more money to continue operating in the community?
Israel, by the way, bombing Beirut 100 times in, how long was it? Was it an hour?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. I don't want to, guys, I don't always want to be like down on Israel, but I got to be honest, 100 times in 10 minutes? Yeah. In a densely populated urban area? I'm really starting to get the feeling, and I'm just saying this, I'm starting to get the feeling that this country, Israel, is a little bit of a problem. I'm starting to get this nagging feeling that Israel doesn't really want this ceasefire. They don't want it to work. Take a look here. Explosions rock Beirut as Israel carries out its biggest attack. Now, by the way, stop this for a minute. Israel claims in all of these buildings there are terrorists doing terrorist things. Like thinking, I don't know what that even means, but apparently there are terrorists everywhere talking about attacking Israel. And Israel has to kill everyone to make sure that none of these terrorists find a way to do it.
So anytime you're ready.
All right, we're here at Third Eye Carnival. Thank you to Steve and the Last American Vagabond and everyone that's been involved with setting this up. I think that events like these are really, really extremely important because the way that the world that we live in now, even just doing my research and stuff, it's stuff that's so out of the frame of mind of the average person because of how much we're spoon-fed that it can feel isolating, especially on the internet and all of these echo chambers and stuff. So being able to have this opportunity to connect with like-minded people and network and show that you're not alone out there, I think is so important. And especially the fact that there's so much censorship out there and the way that they're sort of corralling everybody into these thought bubbles and things like that. The freedom of exchange of information and ideas is so limited. So I want to thank you, to everybody that's been involved in setting these things up and getting everything going. And I think that having more events like this where we can meet in person and share and connect and just live life and be human is so incredibly important. And to all the researchers out there and people that just contribute to the truth in their own ways, I share information and stuff as well, talking to people and trying to get people aware. And, moving to in-person things is the only way they can't censor you these days. And I think that, connecting effectively like this is paramount, and it's going to be something that we need to continue to do in the future.
Okay, and then talk about because this is kind of a hybrid between all the people here. Talk about yourself, your research, what you're about, where you come from, and however far you want to go with that and take it.
Absolutely. So waking up, kind of seeing the whole truth, had this eureka moment that what's coming it's here to stay for as long as they're wanting to keep people involved and sucked into the politics and things like that. And when I finally figured everything out, I had this epiphany moment, I almost had an existential crisis, you would say, or a spiritual awakening. And I felt compelled to drop everything that I was doing and dedicate my entire life and time and energy and focus to trying to wake people up and avoid making the same mistakes that I did and all the mistakes that I see people make, falling into these false narratives and being led astray by people that are just seeking to profit from them or gain attention or have power and influence over people. And I think that it's important to operate in a sort of way that's humble and consistent I'm just an average guy. I've never done any sort of like journalism. I don't have any college education experience or anything, and I'm fascinated with this huge machine that they've laid out, and it blew my mind. And I think that it's very important for people to be aware of these things. Black pill gets thrown around a lot, and that's just a way to sort of discredit people that are sharing truths that make others uncomfortable. But it is the truth, and the truth is what will empower you and set you free.
Okay, that's fantastic. So what are we up against, and what's the solution to it?
So we're up against basically a global cabal of these sadistic, satanic, worshiping demons, essentially, that they prey on people's ignorance, they prey on people's insecurity and inability to cope with the reality around them, and they're setting up a global digital prison. We have digital ID, we have central banking digital currencies right around the world, or right around the corner. We have endless wars that have been going on. We're seeing the imperialistic expansion of the Greater Israel Project going on as well. Kabbalists, Sabbateans, the Rothschild banking industry is fueling all of it. We have people like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Donald Trump that are helping to usher this in the West. We're already seeing the downfall of the American economy. They're attempting to crash the dollar so that they can bring about this digital currency and make us all slaves to the 15-minute cities and putting brain chips in your head. And it's all eugenics and pushed by people for hundreds of years, going back to like the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, Rothschilds again, and it's dystopia. It's tyranny.
Okay, and what's the solution?
The solution would be to first, you want to save yourself. You want to get away from big food. You want to get away from big pharma. You want to stop empowering these people with your energy, your attention, and especially your money, your value. And I would say that connecting with local farmers and locally networking with people, and finding ways to connect with people in person, very much like this event here. Everything is a market on Earth, and that requires your participation in order to continue be successful. So the more people that we can pull out of this market of control, the sooner that it goes away.
Fucking awesome, great.
Welcome to the Independent Review, a weekly podcast where we bring you the latest from the world of independent journalism.
Welcome to the Independent Review, live on AM Wake Up on Odyssey, Rumble, Substack, and the Indie News Network on Twitter. Let's jump to this first clip from Dave DeCamp of antiwarnews.com.
Hey, this is Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com, and welcome to Anti-War News. It is about 10 o'clock on Thursday night here in Virginia, starting a little later than usual this evening. So the big news from Thursday was the announcement from President Trump of a ceasefire in Lebanon, and unfortunately, we've already seen Israeli violations of that ceasefire. So we're going to get into that, but we're going to go through a few Iran stories here. So the first story at the top of antiwar.com today, the U.S. is ready to bomb Iran's power plants and energy industry. So this is U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He held a press briefing on Thursday morning, and he started it by threatening that the U.S. was locked and loaded and ready to destroy Iran's energy infrastructure if the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran restarts. So he said, quote, We are locked and loaded on your critical dual-use infrastructure, on your remaining power generation, on your energy industry, end quote. And notice that he said energy industry there. I mean, he's referring to their oil industry, to their oil infrastructure. He went on, quote, "We'd rather not have to do it, but we're ready to go at the command of our president and at the push of a button," end quote. So before the current ceasefire, we saw all these threats from President Trump to destroy Iran's power plants, completely destroy the energy infrastructure, or as he put it, unleash hell on the country or turn Iran into hell, all the sick threats that he was making. And of course, he said at one point that an entire civilization would die. And then he announced a ceasefire. But one reason why the U.S. didn't go through with those attacks or held off on them is the fact that if they start really lighting up the energy infrastructure in Iran, Iran's going to do the same thing in Israel and in the Gulf Arab states. And they've shown that they can hit oil facilities and things like that. And of course, that would just make the global economic fallout even worse, something Trump is trying to avoid. So Hegseth went on to describe the current U.S. blockade on Iranian ports as a polite way. That's what he called it. He said it was their polite way of pressuring Iran, which, of course, a blockade is considered an act of war. I mean, it's that's not a controversial opinion. It's always been considered an act of war, and they're just openly, saying that they're imposing a total blockade on Iranian ports. So Hegseth said, quote, "Your energy is not moving and will not move, and we can do this all day, but it's not destroyed yet. Your energy industry is not destroyed yet," end quote. So he's stressing that threat of blowing up their oil industry and everything. So Hegseth was joined by Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He detailed the U.S. blockade. So he claimed, "I've seen all sorts of conflicting information about what ships have gotten through, and I just didn't have time to look through like all the ship trackers." But he's claiming that 13 ships turned around, and he said, quote, "As we continue to hold this blockade at the order of the Secretary and the President, any vessel that fails to comply with our instructions will be dealt accordingly," end quote. And he also said the warning is that if any ships approach the U.S. Navy vessels enforcing the blockade, which are based around the Gulf of Oman, where it meets the Arabian Sea, that they'll be boarded, or that the U.S. would use force, threatening to attack these vessels. And also, during his press conference, Hegseth had another moment where he referenced the Bible, and this was one of the most bizarre, kind of absurd things I've ever seen him say. But he said that the journalists who were covering the war, who were not covering it positively, were like the Pharisees in the Gospels. And he referenced a time that Jesus healed a man with a withered hand in a synagogue on the Sabbath, and how the Pharisees were not happy about it. So he appeared to be comparing the war with Jesus Christ healing people. I mean, it's just too absurd, the things that he says. And then another thing that came out on Thursday was at one of these Pentagon prayer services. He recited some prayer. I forget, it was like some military unit that said it, or their people said it, and it was essentially a copy of something that Samuel Jackson said in Pulp Fiction when he recited excerpt from Ezekiel, but it was changed for the movie. And Hegseth, used that same, the scripture from the Pulp Fiction, which was not the original words from the Bible. So just really absurd stuff. So the next one here, the House narrowly defeats Iran war powers resolution. So the House on Thursday just barely defeated a war powers resolution that would have directed President Trump to end hostilities against Iran that haven't been authorized by Congress, as the U.S. military is enforcing a blockade on Iranian ports and is deploying thousands of more troops to the region to prepare for potential ground operations. So Congress, again, is derelict in its duties here, just failing to assert their constitutional war powers over the president. The vote The bill failed in a vote of 213 to 214, with just one Democrat, Representative Jared Golden, joining Republicans to kill the legislation. And this time, only one Republican, Representative Thomas Massey, voted in favor of the bill. Representative Warren Davidson, who voted in favor of the last War Powers resolution, he voted present. He chose not to vote for this bill at this crucial time. And also Nancy Mace, who she was going around saying she might support this War Powers resolution. She didn't vote. So if the two of them voted in favor of it, then it would have passed. Or if the Democrat didn't vote with the Republicans and then one more Republican flipped, then it would have passed as well. But of course, derelict in their duties. And a day earlier, the Senate voted on a similar War Powers resolution, which failed 52 to 47, and Rand Paul was the only Republican to support that, and John Fetterman was the only Democrat to vote against it. And so in the Senate, that's like their fourth or fifth War Powers resolution that they've voted on, and the Democratic leadership, they seem to just be bringing it to the floor for a vote, knowing that it's going to fail, kind of just as a political stunt, I guess, to make it seem like they're doing something, instead of trying to strategically figure out a way where they can get some Republicans on their side. They just keep voting. And I think it shows, people like Chuck Schumer, they want this war to go on for two reasons, because Chuck Schumer is very pro-Israel, and also because they know politically it's really hurting Trump and the Republicans. So that's their thinking. All right, so the next one here, U.S. allies believe that it will take 6 months to reach Iran deal. So this one's from Kyle Anzalone at the Libertarian Institute. European and Gulf Arab countries do not believe the conflict in the Middle East will be resolved in the short term. Arab and European leaders speaking with Bloomberg estimated that it will take at least 6 months for the U.S. and Iran to agree on a permanent end to the conflict. Last week, Pakistan brokered a 2-week ceasefire between Washington and Tehran that was intended to facilitate a full peace agreement. So that 2-week ceasefire, if it's not extended, it will expire on April 22nd. So that's early next week. So there's a lot happening, behind the scenes. It does seem like that the U.S. and Iran are passing messages through Pakistan. And of course, one of Iran's big things for a deal was a ceasefire in Lebanon. So unfortunately, as we'll get into in the next story, it doesn't seem like Israel has ceased fire. But I thought maybe that was a sign that there could be some progress here. And Trump is also Trump's saying all sorts of stuff. I just don't really listen to him too much anymore. He's saying like, oh, the war is going to be, he told Fox News the other day that the war's over. It's just like, he's saying that Iran agreed to let them come take the nuclear, the enriched uranium. And there's just no sign that that's true. But there is like, diplomacy is happening behind the scenes. And there's been reports that there might be another round of talks in Pakistan. All right, so the next one here, Lebanon, the U.S. leaves a loophole for Israeli attacks. So a statement from the U.S. State Department on the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire that went into effect at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday includes language that Israel will likely exploit to continue attacks on the country. The statement says that Israel, quote, shall preserve its right to take all necessary measures in self-defense at any time against planned, imminent, or ongoing attacks, end quote. And of course, you see the language there. Israel can take measures of self-defense at any time against planned, imminent, or ongoing attacks. And we always see Israel, when they violate these ceasefires, they make claims that we're acting against some sort of threat, even when there's just absolutely no evidence to back that up. So this is language that if the U.S. gives them the room to do, they will exploit. And we have seen historically that the U.S. has allowed Israel to violate these ceasefire deals, especially the one in Lebanon that was signed in November 2024. And that was a deal between Israel and Lebanon, but it also included this side agreement between the U.S. and Israel that included very similar language, essentially saying that Israel had the freedom to act as it deemed fit. And of course, in Gaza, every day we're seeing people getting killed and bombed and everything there. And the U.S. just pretends like it's not even happening. So anyway, now hours after this new ceasefire was supposed to go into effect, the Lebanese military said in a statement that there had been a number of Israeli violations. This is what the Lebanese army said in a post on X early Friday morning Lebanon time. It said, quote, "The Army Command renews its calls to citizens to exercise caution in returning to the southern villages and towns amid a number of violations of the agreement, with several Israeli attacks recorded in addition to intermittent shelling targeting a number of villages," end quote. And I saw there was other reports of attacks happening right after this 5 o'clock. And in the hours leading up to the ceasefire, Israel ramped up its attacks. Hezbollah was also claiming attacks on Israel. So hopefully things change overnight, and this does turn into a real ceasefire. But again, we see this language and the patterns that we've seen, and I just always go back to this point that if President Trump is not serious about restraining Israel, about reining them in, about threatening, the military aid and things like that, then they're just going to continue with their same behavior. And unfortunately, I don't think Trump is even going to try to really do that. All right, so the next one here, Israel destroys last bridge to southern Lebanon ahead of ceasefire. So this one's from Jason Ditz. So Thursday's announcement of the ceasefire in Lebanon brought some relief to the 20% of Lebanon's population that is currently displaced by the conflict, though unfortunately, as we said, attacks have continued. But whether or not they'll actually be able to return home is another matter entirely. In the hours leading up to President Trump declaring the ceasefire, Israeli strikes destroyed the last of the bridges spanning the Litani River, completing a project of bridge destruction that began early in the conflict when Israel first ordered the evacuation of the entire population south of the river to the north, and later announcing their intention to occupy the entire region militarily. Israel has been openly saying that they plan to occupy all of South Lebanon. And Israeli officials are saying that the occupying Israeli troops are not going anywhere. I've seen some statements from Hezbollah officials saying that they're going to respect the ceasefire if Israel stops attacking. But there's other statements that suggested that they would consider Israeli troops remaining in southern Lebanon as a ceasefire violation. And there's just no sign that they're going to pull back. But again, you just think about how obviously this is a land grab, ethnic cleansing, remove all the people and then bomb all the bridges so they can't come back. And that is what Israel has accomplished here. So the next one here, mass destruction in South Lebanon as Israeli forces use Gaza tactics. Another one from Jason here. So we covered some of this yesterday. The Israeli media saying that they're using Gaza tactics in South Lebanon. But this has some data here on the number of buildings destroyed. There was a report from BBC citing satellite images that said 1,400 buildings were destroyed in the course of the Israeli offensive since early March. Just since early March. And that is Gaza tactics. And of course, this is just satellite imagery. So that was just what they could identify as damage from satellite images. So of course, the real number of buildings that have been damaged is likely much higher than that. And we've seen, look at this. This is one of the buildings, one of the villages in southern Lebanon that just is completely destroyed. All right, so the next one here, Israeli strike in Gaza kills 2 brothers. So again, the Israeli attacks in Gaza continue. This is a problem that J.D. Vance said the Trump administration had solved. So Israeli attacks in Gaza on Thursday have killed at least 2 Palestinians and injured several others, the Palestinian news agency Wafa has reported, as constant Israeli violations of the U.S.-backed ceasefire deal continue. Wafa reported that 2 brothers, Abdel Malik and Abdel Sattar al-Attar, were killed when an Israeli drone struck the vicinity of a school in Beit Lahia, northern Gaza. You could see them, their bodies there. And this is at the Al-Shifa hospital. The Israeli military claimed that it killed 2 terrorists who crossed the so-called yellow line, but they offered no evidence for that claim. And you see one thing that you notice about a lot of these statements, they don't even claim that these people they're killing are armed. They're just like, oh, they crossed the invisible line and we shot and killed them. And of course, there's been so many instances of Israel killing people beyond the line before they didn't actually cross it. So just no reason to take anything that the IDF says at its word there.
Next, we have this clip from the Indie News Network.
Talked about this lady every week since she was diagnosed in August of 2024. And unfortunately, last week, Shanda lost her fight. And we were all very sad. And she fought valiantly and so hard, and she survived longer than more than 50% of the people who are diagnosed with small cell lung cancer, which she was. It came back twice. She had it beaten, cleared, and it came back aggressively, this fucker. It attacked her salt, which is unusual for a cancer. And she fought all she could, and her body gave out last Thursday. I ran a live stream on Thursday night with the last interview that I had done with her back in October. And it was inspiring, and it was incredible to see the community come together to support this Indie Media Award honoree, this champion of independent media. And I'm glad that we did it, and that we had the space for everyone to come here and mourn and grieve and do it together. Because I think that's what she would have wanted. And it was a lot of the community that she and Oz, her co-host at Beauty and the Boomer, built. And so I wanted to bring some of the tweets and some of the sentiments from people. So Oz originally came and posted at 5 o'clock on Thursday. This was the message that it's with the heaviest of hearts, tremendous grief, and more than a little anger that we announced the passing of our sister, our light, Shanda, who was doing battle with small cell lung cancer in the American health care system. Hardly a fair fight, but Shanda's bravery and amazing strength proved her to be a formidable opponent. And for a while, she was winning. From the streams of Beauty and the Boomer and Trailer Park Pundit, Shanda selflessly showed everyone her journey through treatment, shared her most painful and desperate moments, and continued working to bring the truth to you all who she loved dearly. In Shanda's memory, please just love each other. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Be a friend to animals and to the earth. Donate to others when you can and what you can. And don't be a boat licker. Fuck cancer. Signed Oz, Amber, Linda, and RM. Well, AREM over at Roar Media. And he tagged a bunch of people, including me. And Amber at Brave New Future, who had driven Shanda to the hospital every day while she was going through her last treatment. I'd like to think that it was this beautiful spring moon, just lovely for Shanda to sail away upon from her hospital room with an ocean view in a place she loved. I'm glad to know her suffering is ended. She'll never be forgotten. Okay. That moment, I was like, I had no other words other than fuck cancer. I came up with some later on, but all I could think at that moment was fuck cancer. I said, heartbroken, I'll miss my sister, and proud to have been able to be her last interview in October. And what a champ and a fighter. She's already missed. And then I had to write something for INN, and I put this graphic together. Heartbreaking news that all the members of INN are so sad to see our friend and sister succumb to her battle with cancer today. She was a bright light that'll be missed by so many. In place of American tradition, we will stream her last interview recorded in October. And again, I'm so glad that we did that. INN members, Colin Radix Carter says, the independent media space just lost an OG in her fight against cancer. Rest in power, Shanda. What good is our healthcare system if we can't take care of our friends and family? Okay. Mad Crab, we lost a real one. Rest in peace. Angel, the handsome cynic, sorry to hear. I wish I took the chance to get to know her more, but for one reason or another, it never happened. The interactions we did have, she was great to me and helped me out. Thank you and rest in power. Okay. Halo, again, Aspen's mother. I'm honored to have worked with Shanda and called her a friend. She will be missed. Everybody knows Jack's page. Both myself and my husband are devastated to hear this. My heart breaks for her family and for you, Oz. I know how close you two were, and she was amazing, so special. Just an all-around amazing person. Absolutely heartbroken. We all are. She touched so many lives with her activism and her podcasts. Her husband and she had built their Saturday nights around Beauty and the Boomer for years. Shanda was always extremely kind to her. Such a beautiful soul. Fuck cancer. Taken far too soon. Paula Iacella, another Indie Media Award honoree for activism. So sad, such a beautiful person. I was fortunate to have met Shanda in D.C. at a big Assange rally at the DOJ. She did several interviews that day. Like you said, she was a bright light for all of us. That was actually the day that we introduced the Indie Media Awards. That was October 8th, 2022. I'll never forget it. Paula also notes that Shanda was one of the first big wave of Bernie-inspired local candidates elected in Washington state as a delegate. Many of us were introduced to her when she did interviews blowing the whistle on the corrupt local Dems and their shenanigans that suppressed the progressive agenda. That was back in 2017, 2018, right through 2020. She was still there. Tara Reid. Everyone knows Tara. Really sorry to see this. Shanda was a really kind soul. Okay. Fuck, it's such a terrible disease. Sleepy Josh. We all know Sleepy Josh, member of the family. So sorry, Oz. Shanda was one of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. The world lost someone that will never be replaced. The world isn't fucking fair. And members of the community, members of their audience, Chili Love. Love you, Shanda. Beautiful soul, fly free. Lizzie Prickles. These were the producers for Beauty and the Boomer. So sorry and sad to hear this news. He was thinking of her often, but especially the past week. She wanted to reach out, wish she had. Godspeed, dear, sweet, wonderful Shanda. You'll be missed. Deb V. Rest in power. My heart breaks for your families and besties and so many others. Okay, and then we've got Cynic. Of course, our darling Shanda, you'll be missed. My love to Shanda's family and her dearest friends. And Worker Wombat, who's, I believe, in the chat. And the Wombat tweets. We got multiple Wombats in there. And Three-Chord Grifter, man, this really sucks. I totally agree. It was a hard day. And then we have some of the live stream community, Do Dissidents, that actually had Shanda on last July, and she was on with Misty as well. Very kind soul, taken far too soon. Spoke with her about a month back, and she was in great spirits. She was very brave and very much will be missed. And that's Keaton, I believe, what made that post. Kit over at Hard Lens had just found out we lost the beautiful Shanda today. She was an angel in this world. Please send condolences. This was an interview she had done with Kit and Daniel back in 2021. Fred Edward. I cannot find the words to say how I feel. Yeah, I feel that, bro. Harry Worth also, another member of the family. Ghost Art posted this video that was created by Death to Tyrants. So you can go watch that over on Rumble. Speaking of Ghost Art grabbed a screen cap of the stream from the other night on Rumble. Appreciate him doing that and posting that. We'll always miss you, Shanda. And I said I was glad he was there tonight. I am. I'm very glad you were there. Okay, and then again, No More Santa Claus was talking about the stream in memory of Shanda, a comrade and an inspirational pioneer in independent media online. Her last interview, and there was the link. And finally, Victory Jin also commented and noted that the interview was a banger. And thank you. I I'm just grateful that she was well enough to do it and had the strength to do it. And like I said, we're going to create at the merch store a Shandamasta Fuck Cancer collection where there will be a t-shirt, a hoodie, a tank top, and a sticker that you can purchase. And it will have her name and 1974 to 2026. And all the profits will be donated either to her GoFundMe or final expenses and medical bills. And after that's settled, it would then go to cancer research.
Next, we have this clip from Hard Lens Media.
War. What is it good for? Absolutely investing. Absolutely investing. Why? Because their crimes are so bad, they'll want to end the world. All right. They have to end the world because their crimes are so bad. That's what the Epstein administration wants to do. Shout out to Kurt Metzger who called it out. But see, the thing is, Trump said that war is a good investment. War is a good investment. All right. Donald Trump says the Iran war is a true investment in your children and grandchildren's future. Don't believe me? Hey, here's what's going on here. War is a good investment. There's the reason why you can't have health care, Medicaid, or daycare or any kind of stuff. It's because all the money's being invested in war.
They're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future. The whole world is watching, and they can't leave the power, strength, and brilliance. They just can't believe what they're seeing. They leave it to your imagination, but they can't believe what they're seeing. The brilliance of the United States military.
Yeah, wow, brilliance of it, right? All right, because apparently what? Trump opening up the Strait of Hormuz for China, right? The U.S. president said he is permanently reopening the waterway after Beijing supposedly agreed not to send weapons to Iran. What are you doing? You're opening it, you're closing it. Open the legs, close the legs. What is it? Open the strait, close the strait. What are we doing? What are we doing here? See, the thing is, Trump is being strong-armed into this, and he has no way out. He can't get out of this. First of all, again, peace deal. Israel and Bibi won't let it happen. The Israelis want this war. We talked about this on Due Dissonance. Even though they're getting bombed, it's very clear that, hey, what they did in Gaza was a genocide. I didn't know that the funny mustache man from Germania left such an impression on Israel. Well, what? What happened in Gaza then? It's a moonscape. Bombing Lebanon, Syria. You think they want to end the war in Iran? No. Like, what are we doing here? Hey, how's gasoline prices in your neck of the woods? But give it up for Kurt Metzger right here. I want to just give a shout out to this, because remember when Trump ran as a pro-peace candidate? Remember that? I do. So does Petridge Farm.
Is it just like we're having World War III, so Trump says it's about to end every other day, so they just got to keep putting you off and then provoke a new thing, because they can't ever end this war. How can they end it? What happens? Israel's been getting pounded, dude.
Yeah.
So if it stops, we're going to have to see how bad the damage is, right?
Well, you saw the video of the sewage in Israel where they blew up the sewers, and so now there's just sewage just flowing all over the streets there. But we're told that they don't have a
damn. Iran's fighting dirty. All of Israel's shite on the floor.
Missiles left. Well, apparently they had one that went straight into the sewage system in Tel Aviv.
And this is the other thing I don't get. I refuse to believe that I get better information than the president of the United States. I just don't see how that's realistic or possible. And yet, for some reason, every time he talks, he sounds as if he's been briefed by, like, your dumbest relative who watches, like, Fox still. Or, you know, like, it sounds like, and, okay, maybe he's really stupid. People have, like, opinions I would respect. Go, yeah, he's a very stupid man. When he ran, the stuff he said wasn't stupid. It was the exact opposite of what he's doing right now.
Right.
So I don't believe he's stupid, because you can't watch those old recordings and go, and then now, oh, he just doesn't know. What do you mean? You know, he knows. Yeah. So what's going on? I guess I'm just supposed to be stupid or what? Clearly, this is all on purpose. I don't think anyone's this incompetent. It's just not possible.
Right. Well, do you think to some extent
Guys, why are you wearing sunglasses in studio? I mean, it's okay. I love them both. They're all right. But guys, come on. We wear no sunglasses.
He's been so isolated by his own cabinet and his own administration that they have led him to believe that everything he's doing is popular. Like I saw something about Susie Wiles today, that Susie Wiles' chief of staff has now instructed people in the administration to please start being honest with him about
Oh, hold on. People are asking, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Well, simple. Let me just pull up his name here. Sorry about that, folks. This is Ben Swan. He's the one who notoriously did the story on the Pizzagate reveal. And then he lost his job because apparently the media and powers that be didn't like him talking about Pizzagate. But listen, my one criticism for this video is, gentlemen, outside wear the shades. Inside, yeah, okay.
Poll numbers, be honest with him about how the public sees this
To
war.
start doing that?
Yeah, to start today. To start today doing that.
So look, again, that still takes all this agency away from Trump as if he's just a Biden, and I don't believe it. Now, a long time ago, but I don't want to believe it, and I'm not saying it, but I was told he's been programmed. All these people have been programmed out the gate, and he's Jesuit program. That's one of the most impressive. That's one of the most impressive mind control regimens you could be in. He's from one of them despicable kind of families that put their kids in that. And I didn't want to believe it, but now I believe it 100%. And now I think I know why Dick Gregory used to say there's two Trumps. Because he embodies a mythological concept at this point. He's so 180 degrees from what he should have been. He's like the two-faced God motif now. So, like, that's the thing of them mocking and telling your face. If people still think we have a real country of democracy after this, I don't know what's gonna help you. They're gonna take everybody except in this.
Yep.
The Pizzagate thing that you uncovered, that you had to pay big for. The fact that the Epstein files they're dragging their feet on.
Yep.
They have to end the world now because their crimes are so bad. You understand, everybody? There's no disclosure. They cannot disclose anything. They can never tell you what they did. It's so bad.
Okay. So they'd rather have us all get nuked than disclose our crimes, which is, hey, what? I mean, come on. Why did we have to go to war with Iran? Why do we have to kidnap the president of Venezuela? Why are we doing all this stuff? Why are we threatening Cuba? Why are we doing all this stuff? I thought Trump was the pro-peace candidate. Didn't he say he was going to get the war in Ukraine to end in one day? Yeah, that didn't happen. That sure as hell did not happen. One has to wonder overall just what the main plan is. And the plan is to send your children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren to war.
Next is this clip from Ryan Christian and James Corbett.
Fine, or should I say Ohio gozaimasu, Christian-san. How are you doing?
Oh, okay, Japanese. What was that? How are you, James?
I'm all right.
It is seriously though. I wanted to, this thing, it weighs on me. This topic it's heavy, more than, same sort of like the technocratic idea. Cause I actually should have included that. Like that to me is a huge part of this like kind of multifaceted agenda, and hoping your work is always so, basically just help guide this in a way that might make it more sense for myself, for other people. And, so first let's just start with the idea of this concept, right? So first, just not to get into like the Iran conversation itself, but ultimately we saw this ceasefire conversation, which amounted to, last point here, Donald Trump initiating, or at least claiming to, point we could get into if you'd like to. It kind of feels like another bluster, but a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And this started an interesting conversation because it kind of seemed like it didn't make sense, right? This idea that, well, you're stop blockading a blockade to reopen the strait, like it didn't make much sense. And this argument came out of people arguing that this is a masterclass. That's a term that's been used all day today. And the idea that this is sort of an engineered plan by Donald Trump to essentially play the fool, which I have a hard time wrapping my mind around, to engineer this change. Now, what they're really focusing on is the global energy flow and oil and, kind of circumventing to the United States. And that through that sort of re-engineering the way the global energy system works, and almost in a way arguing that sort of like the US debt could be like turned and inverted to be their greatest asset, and all these different arguments. And so I was wondering in my mind right then, is this sort of just an effort to just give Trump a pass to make it seem like his bumbling efforts are really just a secret plan? Or was this really like the plan? Like, is this, because to me, I do see how this can connect with the Great Reset, with the technocratic agenda, with the greater North America, greater Israel. So, I want to get in with you. What do you think about this, and where do you think this is going?
Okay, there are several layers to examine here, but the first layer that we should probably get out of the way right away is the idea that Trump is personally making any decisions or strategizing anything himself. Of course, as we know, like every president throughout history, he is just a product of what his advisors and handlers and people who are feeding him information tell him to say, essentially, at various points. So let's not make the mistake of assigning any agency to Trump himself. But having said that, is there a greater strategy going on? Well, again, as I say, there are layers to looking at this. So the first order layer of looking at this move to blockade the strait that they want to open, it does make sense in a certain capacity. For example, I think the narrative that they are putting out there right now is that either all traffic goes through the strait or no traffic goes through the strait. We're not going to let Iran determine which traffic goes through the strait and put up their toll. So unless you open it up completely, we're going to close it down completely. And that does make sense from that perspective. If the goal is to pressure Iran into opening the strait, then we apply pressure on them by taking away their toll incentive for traffic passing through the strait. That does make a certain degree of sense, right?
If that was their intention or their benefit, right? That's
Exactly.
really.
So that's the narrative that's put out there anyway. There are several things to interrogate about that narrative. One of which, as I'm sure you're aware, Kit Knightley has been writing about it off Guardian, is the entire question of this strait drama. And is the strait closed? How was it closed? And in what way? And are there mines involved? But both sides said there weren't mines involved. But the anonymous press report said that the strait has been mined. But then Iran said that, yes, it's been mined, but we can't find the mines. But clearly that was a lie.
They said that.
Whatever. Anyway, people can keep up with that sort of back and forth and what that even means. So I think there is some degree of theater taking place around this issue in general. But yes, there is sort of the broader question of the larger picture of this. And as usual, there's the 2D picture and the 3D picture. The 2D picture is the one that probably makes sense to most people. These are individual sovereign nation states that are warring against each other on the geopolitical chessboard for different squares of the chessboard. And in that regard, maybe this is, we'll call it a Trump master plan. But again, we know that Trump is not making any decisions himself. But the US side of this deep state is making the concerted move to actually generate the energy crisis by which they will be able to consolidate more of the energy market in American hands. And so the argument is essentially, so they're closing down the strait. They have just taken over Venezuela. They are boarding / bombing / otherwise disrupting Russian tankers going into various locations. Meanwhile, of course, the Ukrainian proxies are targeting Russian oil infrastructure. Qatar has been, their gas processing facilities have been damaged as a result of the retaliatory strikes from Iran, which presumably America could have calculated would have occurred as a result of the strikes that are going on, perhaps even prompted that retaliation. So what we have is this energy crisis. And oh, wait, who turns out to be now the biggest exporter of oil and gas in the world? Well, now it's the United States. Wow. Convenient, isn't it? And if they bring in Venezuelan oil and other oil that they're tapping into this. And then we start to understand, for example, the strategic utility of, say, Greenland in affecting an Atlantic or a northern blockade, which could be enforced in a future energy crisis or energy war. And the pressure is now going on to, of course, all of the U.S. vassal states and allies like Japan, which is currently dependent for something like 3/4 of its oil imports for oil coming through the Strait of Hormuz. Well, that's the calculus changes. And well, we have to buy American oil now, something along those lines. But also, I think ultimately this is about pressuring China, and Chinese oil and gas supplies are obviously, there's been a lot of cooperation with Iran and Russia and other axis of resistance nations. But if China is pressured sufficiently, perhaps they will be maneuvered into something like a pre-World War II, pre-Pearl Harbor type strategy that the U.S. applied against Imperial Japan, enacting an oil blockade and embargo against Japan in the 1930s, which was really the precipitory event towards the Pearl Harbor strike, which we know they were goaded specifically into that strike. A lot to say about that. But are we being positioned into some sort of World War III precipitory event that would be precipitated by China being cornered into some sort of energy situation where they are getting starved from all of their allies? Now that of course brings in the three-dimensional layer that we should be looking at into all of this, which is so if this is not simply nation states acting in their own sovereign best interests, what is the larger game plan and what is happening at a larger scale? And as people know, I have been examining this, for example, in my recent, I did a recent podcast on the real endgame in Iran, talking about how this is engineering us towards a new multipolar system, exactly like those BRICS saviors have been talking about for years, specifically predicated on a new international monetary order, because what we are looking at is the death pangs of the petrodollar system.
Right.
I won't belabor it for your audience, who I'm sure have some inkling of a clue about what this is. But if they don't, they can go and look at my previous work on the subject. But long story short, in the 1970s, during the energy crisis, right after Nixon closed the gold window in 1971, stopped the US dollars being convertible into gold, suddenly the entire international monetary order, which was at that time based on at least the idea, if not the reality, of the US dollar being convertible to gold at $35 an ounce. Okay, the International Monetary Order has a solid commodity gold backing. Suddenly that backing doesn't exist. What can we use to backstop the US dollar? Why would anyone hold US dollars in particular? Well, Kissinger, of course, was scrambling behind the scenes to create, at the behest of his Rockefeller deep state handlers, the petrodollar system, by which Saudi Arabia in particular, and of course all of the countries that associate with Saudi Arabia, would denominate their oil purchases and selling in US dollars, and that those US dollars specifically would be recycled back through the US banking system into US treasuries as part of a security guarantee package that was going on. As I have pointed out recently, that system has been strained for a number of years and pressured by the creation of a potential petro yuan, oil purchases being denominated in yuan specifically and settled in local currencies rather than through the US dollar, has put some degree of pressure on the dollar. But now we're starting to see even potentially greater pressure on the dollar, especially if Iran is able to say put a toll on the strait so that only, for example, yuan denominated oil could pass through the strait, which was a story that was at least floated a few weeks ago. That would put even greater pressure on the dollar, or at least the petrodollar. And the question is, so what system comes along to take its place? And wouldn't you know it, the BRICS nations have already been working on this for years. They have their alternative SWIFT, the CIPS, the cross-border interbank payment system that China has been assiduously working on for years. They have the BRICS Pay system, which will settle international payments in local currencies amongst the BRICS nations. We see the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, floating this idea that there should be an interoperable BRICS CBDC as a settlement currency, as a wholesale currency for BRICS nations, etc. So we're seeing the creation of this alternative infrastructure for an entirely new payment system. And it is important to understand that these concepts go together. A monetary order and a geopolitical order generally go together. It is no coincidence that the era of Pax Americana was defined by the US dollar as the world reserve currency. And if we start to see that breaking apart, well, then we start to see the possibility of a new geopolitical order forming based on some form of multipolarity. Now, this blockade of the strait and all of this, actually, I mean, it creates potentially a different scenario by which U.S. hegemony can be maintained further by essentially undermining that new monetary order, the petro yuan or whatever was coming along to take the place, if suddenly most of the world is dependent on the US once again for oil, which would obviously be denominated in dollars. Again, there would be the incentive for states around the world to have and to hold dollars as the reserve currency. So it could be like exactly what Brzezinski was talking about in the late 20th century with his Grand Chessboard book. We need to find a way to extend unipolar US hegemonic dominance of the world into the 21st century to make it the new American century. How do we do that? Well, here we are at the doorstep of potentially another operation to do that.
And
Next, we have this clip from Garland, Nixon, and Steve Poikonen.
Well, Steve, we've got lots of stuff to talk about. We got big stories going on, all kinds of med tech stuff. But before we do, there is a controversial picture on Twitter that you and I must visit, and I must get your opinion on. So apparently there was a picture of an IDF soldier, a settler, whatever you want to call this guy. And this individual was harassing a Palestinian woman. And he decided to take a picture of himself and her, and he was making weird animal noises. I saw the video. And in the video, she was saying, go away, you go away. Basically, he was harassing her. They were, doing something with their olive trees. You know how they love to harass like a person who's picking olives, right? Yeah. And so she's telling him to go away, and he's making these animal noises. He's going like, and I'm like, well, what? That's weird, right? And so apparently there was an Italian photographer there, and he videotaped this guy making these weird animal noises. So I guess he decided, well, this is an interesting looking chap. I think I'll take a picture of him. So this is the IDF soldier, settler, armed settler, whatever he was, but he is an Israeli. And his picture seems to really have become quite popular. Apparently, there was a magazine released in Italy with this guy's picture. And immediately, the Israelis got upset and they said that it was AI. I can understand why one may look at that and think that somebody took a human being and, kind of added some other maybe non-human or perhaps pre-human, DNA to it some kind of way, in some kind of a AI thing, and then come up with that. But this apparently they had video of this guy, and they had previous pictures of him that had been taken by the New York Times, etc. So now the Israelis said that it's a bad portrayal of Israelis, and I thought, well, that's unfair. I mean, this poor gentleman, this handsome fellow, obviously a highly intellectual guy, he apparently, is representing his country and fighting, defending his country, what have you. And I think it's a terrible thing that when his picture gets out in the news, that his country looks at his picture and for some reason they're too embarrassed to claim it. And I thought to myself, well, that's not right. This guy, granted, I may disagree with what he's doing, but from the looks of things, he's an honorable member of that society. I'm thinking I probably wouldn't put a gun in this guy's hand. I probably wouldn't really put any object that would be like sharp or that could hurt someone in this guy's hand. But the Israelis are upset, and I think they're doing the guy dirty. Your thoughts, Steve?
So one of my spiritual guides, Patrice O'Neill, pointed out a long time ago that if a black person does something, the entire black community does something. If a Arab person does something, the entire Arab community does something. If an Israeli settler happens to be the perfect segue into another story we have about a chimpanzee civil war, that is a one-off, and it's in no way, shape, or form representative of the state of Israel or the Jewish community. And if you were to try to tie one to the other, you would be dangerously anti-Semitic and would probably deserve to be deplatformed. That is, however, what you see right before you start carving the gargoyle on top of the church building. That is your inspiration.
Well, and I thought to myself, if you have your choices, if this guy's going to shoot you or bite you, let him shoot you. Let him shoot you. You got a better chance, because from the looks of this guy, there's bacteria in there, buddy, that is unknown to human beings for at least 50,000 years. If that guy bites you, I've always made this point. You know how you watch these zombie apocalypse movies and like the first guy gets bit? He's the beginning of a zombie apocalypse.
Right. He's the guy that gets bit and then doesn't tell anybody.
Right.
and tries to just stay with the group as long as possible before he goes full zombie. That's that guy.
Yeah.
That's that guy.
And they keep telling him, "Are you okay?" And he's like sweating,
right?
And then he's feeling sick, and his body. Man, why do you feel so cold there? Whatever your name is, and he's like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." And then they look and they see like blood under, and they're like, "What happened?" I caught it on a fence.
Yeah.
And then eventually they're all sleeping at night, and his eyes pop open, and let's face it, like half of the little crew that they got that actually would be survivors end up getting bit by this guy.
Right. Somebody's wife is gonna get shot. So somebody's husband is gonna have to kill somebody's wife.
Yep.
Yeah, all because of Mordecai over here.
There we go. Because this guy couldn't keep his chromosomes in place. And speaking of which, so I think so now that we've gotten that out of the way, that's just a story about this gentleman that I felt that we should address. I felt that, oops. There we go. I accidentally got rid of you. There we go. How's that, Chief?
All right. Good night, everybody.
Yeah. How about that? Oh, let's try to get rid of this guy and let's go to a completely and totally unrelated story. All right. This is a story that is completely unrelated to any other stories that we will or will not do about people who are actual people or do not exist. Look right here. Chimpanzees in Uganda are locked in a deadly civil war after their group split apart and scientists don't know why.
Now, I am by no means an evolutionary biologist. However, the little fella that's front and center in that picture now does bear a striking
related picture. Uh-oh.
I mean, far be it from me to draw a comparison, but
yeah, exactly. I would say this guy here that we're looking at looks like he has a considerably higher IQ than the other guy we just talked to. That's the difference I think we're looking at.
Hopefully,
if I
a better
face
shot.
Off against, I was about to say, this guy here probably considerably more articulate too. I might add. I'm only saying that because I watched the video with the other guy. Literally, I swear to God, there's a video of that guy, and the woman is talking to him in human language. She's like, "You go away," and he's like. And at first I thought he's hassling her, and then I realized something. I think he's really trying to communicate.
Maybe he's actually
I think
legitimately chimping out over there. Like it's not just a colloquialism chimping out. It's something that dude is doing in real time.
Yeah, at first you look and I'm like, what the heck is he doing? He's literally making noises like this, right? And I'm like, why is he making like communicating in rudimentary grunts and clicks? I mean, I thought we got past that maybe 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, right? And then after a while, I looked at it and over, and I thought, I don't think he's hassling her. I think that's really the best he can do as far as communication skills. We may look at it as a hassle. She may not realize that in his particular clan, I guess, whatever you want, a group of people that wander through, digging for grubs and stuff like that, that's how they communicate. They go, blah, 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 blah. And that means there's a saber-toothed tiger coming to get you. Everybody run. But we think it's harassment.
The other option, of course, is that guy is just so racist that he believes the person that he's squawking at to be nothing more than an animal. So he's merely making mocking animal sounds at her. And he knows that at any moment, once he gets 145 of his buddies, they can set fire to her olive grove in the middle of the night while she's asleep, because that's what brave men do.
Exactly. The other thing is, from the looks of this guy, it's possible that he's so racist that he has physically slowly reverted his back to a time when human beings were in small groups and they attacked each other, and you would literally eat the other group. If you were able to defeat the other group, you would literally eat them or something like that. And so not only his communication skills, it's so overtaken his body that physically he's reverting and regressing back to a time when people pretty much ate each other.
I just thought of a fourth possibility, and it could be that that's just legitimately Hebrew.
Yeah. Yeah, that's possible too.
It is not the loveliest language on God's green earth. It is not. And look, I don't mean that I'm not trying to knock anybody or anything like that. If you're fluent, that's great. I'm sure it helps you get a loan. But just as far as languages go, not necessarily, not in there with the Romance languages. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll take a look at this guy here. People have had fun. I'm just going to say people have had fun. You look around, maybe some of the social media platforms, people had a little bit of fun with that.
This is the first character to discover Charlton Heston.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or if you're younger, Marky Mark.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get back to the story, the total unrelated story, because this is an interesting one, and it's
pretty wild, huh?
So what's going on? Chimpanzees in Uganda are locked up in a deadly civil war after their group split apart, and scientists don't know why. The first well-observed civil war in wild chimpanzees reveals that shifting social ties alone can fracture a group, igniting deadly conflict between former friends. Gee, I wonder if one group is committing genocide against the other group. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm relating any particular stories, but I'm just saying if some kind of a chimpanzee-minded person or chimpanzee, like in Uganda, certainly nowhere else, had something against another chimpanzee, then perhaps they may try to commit genocide against them or something like that.
Yeah, perhaps chimpanzee is in a particular tree or near a particular grove of bananas or something like that another chimpanzee was told was promised to it 3,000 years ago. And
yes.
So that chimpanzee is now claiming the territory as its own as part of a greater chimpanzee neighborhood that it feels like it has a several 1,000-year claim to.
Now, we take a look at this clip from True Stream Media.
This is fine.
Do you realize that the past, starting from yesterday, has already been abolished? If it survives anywhere, it's in a few solid objects with no words attached to them, like that lump of glass there. Already we know most literally nothing about the revolution and the years before the revolution. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book has been rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street and building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. All that process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. So that's, of course, George Orwell's 1984. How did they get to that point as a people where they accepted just out and out lies? They accepted the erasing of history right in their faces. And it's happening right now. So while everybody is distracted about things that are going on the other side of the planet, a place that many of them have never been before themselves, and so they can only know about what that is based upon a corrupt mainstream media that we can't trust at all, and a world where every piece of media from video to audio to pictures can be altered in real time. In the background of that, they're changing everything here in our country. So many executive orders are being signed and so many things are happening. You can't really keep up with one thing long enough for it to sink in half an inch deep so that you could really think about how's that going to affect society? How's that going to affect the reality I live in? Well, this is one of those things that kind of came and went, and I saw it, but I didn't really go look into it or dig into it. Last year, Trump signed an executive order titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, which sounds great as a title. As a title, that sounds, we should have truth and sanity, right? That is not what it means. Because if you get down here, there's this big, long, drawn-out thing about how over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth, and claiming there's a revisionist movement that's seeking to undermine the remarkable achievements of the U.S. by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. And instead of it being about the nation's legacy of liberty and individual rights and human happiness, it's now being reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, and oppressive, and otherwise irredeemably flawed. The answer to that, if you scroll down here to Section 4, Restoring Truth in American History, it says here under Section 3 that the Secretary of the Interior shall take action as appropriate and consistent with applicable law to ensure that all public monuments, memorials, statues, markers, and similar properties within the Department of Interior's jurisdiction do not contain depictions, descriptions, or other content that inappropriately disparages Americans past or living, including persons living in colonial times, and instead focus on the greatness of the achievements and progress of the American people, or with respect to natural features, the beauty, abundance, and grandeur of the landscape. And everything else is supposed to go.
I like how the government still wants to tell you what to do, even when you go out into nature, when you go to the land. They want to control the signs. They want to control what you think about when you're out there just taking a breath. You finally get out of town, go out to enjoy the land. Government still wants to tell you how to think about your limited time out in nature, enjoying the actual world.
And so you have all this history that is in these national parks and national lands. They are now going through and taking down history that might disparage people who are dead. In the United States, you can't libel or slander a deceased person. They don't have a legal right to harm because they don't have a living reputation. So disparaging a dead person is not a thing in the eyes of the law. And it says here, as appropriate and consistent with the law, but I don't expect everyone who works for the National Park Service to understand that. But it is known that you can't, like the family members of a dead person cannot sue if you say something negative about a dead person, because they don't like it that you said that. Because there's no, that's not a thing in our law system. But they're ordering that the park take down anything that would disparage any Americans, past or living. So what you end up with now, and there's a map here called The Missing History of Our National Parks, and you could zoom in, there's hundreds of sites and hundreds of things that they're trying to remove from these parks that tell history that is inconvenient, things that are negative that have happened. I'm going to show you a few examples. I'm not going to go through all of this because it's hundreds. It's probably thousands, actually, seems like, of items within, because some of these, one location can have 30 plus items that they have problems with that they're trying to take down right now or edit that stuff out because it disparages people. So I would be here all day if I went through all of them, but I've gone through a bunch because I'll show you this. Somebody posted 7.5 gigs of this information. They say it's a whistleblower that posted this. I don't know, but there's 7.5 gigs of this information about the targets for removal from the national parks. And someone posted this in several places on the internet anonymously. And it says that they're dismantling trusted sources of science and history, which makes an agenda of lies easier. It says profiting from coal and oil is much easier if the impacts of fossil fuels are censored at sites like Muir Woods, Glacier Park, the Everglades. It's easier to illegally detain people if we forget the true stories of Japanese-American incarceration in World War II, because they're trying to censor that too, etc., right? If they can just change everything, then you don't know about it. But that's the problem with America, because our history is very dark. There's a lot of bad that's happened here. And we can take the national park sign down about that and try to lie to ourselves that it never happened, but it doesn't really make it not happen. And some of these sites that they have here, I mean, the whole site itself is where a massacre occurred. That's the reason it's a site within the national park system. Or Manzanar, which is where they interned Japanese American citizens during World War II. The whole reason that's a park is because it was the internment camp and you go there to learn about that. So there's not a way to make that nicer. You can't fluff that up. You can't fluff up taking Japanese Americans during World War II and forcing them into re-education camps against their will. There's not a way to do that doesn't disparage somebody, okay? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, we're not all 5 years old, and you can't do this to history. It doesn't work. This stuff doesn't go away. It just doesn't. There's no way to... You can take the signs down, but it's the name of the place, okay? Like, here's an example. Sand Creek Massacre National Historic Site. That's the whole point of the site being there is that there was a massacre there. And you go and you learn about that. And you learn about the Cheyenne and Arapaho people. And you learn about volunteer soldiers attacking a peaceful encampment. That is what you learn about. If you take all that down, why would there even be a place there? What are you going to call it? What are you going to do? You're just going to call it a site and then have no information? I mean, this is how ridiculous it gets. It gets so ridiculous. Here's an example to show you how ridiculous. Harper's Ferry National Historic Park. If you don't know about Harper's Ferry and the John Brown slave raid, if you don't know that history, well...
But I'll just say Icarus, okay? If you know what I mean, great. If you don't, it doesn't matter. But you should probably read more.
If you go into this map and you click on these things, it gives you the notes of what people are writing at the park about what they're changing and stuff. Come down here, like, let me just read this to you. So you have a Civil War driving tour with a publication that includes quotes about secession documents. And it says, John Brown Raiders Handout. This document refers to townspeople using the body of a dead insurrectionist for target practice. Does this denigrate the townspeople? We can reword it. They threw his body into the river and continued to fire shots at it. See what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to take, there's no way to write that. Like, there's no way to write that and not denigrate somebody. John Brown's raid timeline. This document states a drunken mob murders an insurrectionist. Does this denigrate the townspeople? We can reword it to, some townspeople enraged by the mayor's death kill William Thompson and toss his body into the Potomac. Life and Times of John Brown. This document states a mob murders an abolitionist. Does this denigrate the murderers? That's a question that they wrote in here. Like, are we denigrating the murderers? Can you help us out? How do we write this history so we don't denigrate the murderers? I'm going to give you a big fat clue. You don't. There's not a way. But it gets worse because down here at the bottom, it says... We can reword it to abolitionist editor Elijah Lovejoy is murdered for his views. He is murdered. We're going to just do passive voice now so we can erase the people who murdered him. Because you don't get murdered, right, without there being a murderer. It's not, you can't just, that's a different word. We're talking about a whole different vocabulary if we're going to be doing this. Like, you can't say someone is murdered without there being a murderer. Like, you might not know who it is. Are we going to start pretending we don't know who these people are? There's no way to not denigrate a murderer. At the Grand Tetons National Park, there's a whole section here where they're trying to figure out what to do about Gustavus Doan, because there's a section on how he's a challenging figure because he did explorations, he did natural park contributions. So he did do those good things, but he also served in the army and participated in what is now known as the Marias Massacre, in which the army killed over 170 Blackfeet, including many women, elders, and children. It was mostly women, children, and old people that he murdered in their sleep, and spoke fondly of this attack and wrote about it and bragged about it for the rest of his life. I mean, that is something that he did. So this is a person who participated in the murdering of a whole bunch of women and children. There's not a way to describe this man without denigrating him, because he denigrated himself. We can lie to ourselves to rewrite our history, but that's not really restoring truth. That's actually just painting over truth with lies and calling it truth in the most Orwellian way possible. And if it was just like there were some signs I saw in there that were pretty heavy-handed on the climate change narrative or something. I mean, if that's what we were talking about, I could see where there's a dispute on some of that. So, but this here, this is known. This guy wrote about it himself. He wrote about it himself. He denigrated himself. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this man was proud of participating in a massacre and murdering women and children. There's not unless you just literally whitewash the history with just erasing that part of it completely, there's not a way to restore truth to the Grand Teton National Park by removing this information. What you're actually doing is removing context. You're actually just removing the truth. And that's what we're seeing in this executive orders application time and time and time again. Muir Woods is another example. John Muir, yeah, national parks guy, absolutely. Also known racist and was friends with a lot of people who were part of the early eugenics movement in the United States. That's just the reality. He referred to Indians as dirty savages. This is the kind of stuff he said. That's who he was. You can't dress that up and make it be like, no, all he ever said was the woods are calling and I must go. I love everyone. Everyone's great. Like, he was a complex figure. We can't just pretend that that's not who he was. It's who he was. Unless we just want to all pretend we're 5 years old and lie to ourselves about the shades of gray in a person and act like everyone was just this pristine cartoon character. And there's a whole sign that's been put up that has a whole bunch of information about all of this stuff, where it talks about this history of eugenics and controlled breeding and racial superiority and all of that stuff, because it's all interwoven in this history. It's just a part of it. And in the ultimate irony, okay, on the sign for this that says all this stuff, it actually says in here, what do omissions in the historic narrative reveal about our society? How does knowing more shape your perspective on the past and the future? What it should say now is, how does knowing less do that? Because that's what they're doing. I mean, some of these, they don't even make any sense. I'm not even sure what the reason was. Like, for example, there's a sign here in Big Bend National Park about a volcanic landscape. And it talks about how, there was the distant Chisos Mountains, which are remnant of a volcano. Then it later talks about how even though the volcano is no longer active, the ancient mountain eroded and now forms the core of the Chisos Mountains. Like, I don't know. Is it because they use the word eroded? Like, I don't even know what the reason is why this one can't be there. Is it because it says the age of dinosaurs? Is that what we're not talking about? I don't know. And they don't know. And they're not telling why they want this sign taken down. They're just taking it down. I don't know. Some of them are really obvious, but others of these, like, for example, is it the Timucuan Preserve? I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but there's a plantation. There's Kingsley Plantation at this preserve in Florida. There are slave cabins that have been preserved that are on this plantation, and a bunch of history of these people who were there that were slaves. And they have marked all of this for review to be taken down because it's depictions of slavery. It's depictions of enslaved women having their children taken from them and the horrid conditions they were enduring. There are artifacts there like ankle racks that were used on people being whipped and stuff. I mean, there's basically depictions of all of this stuff, and there's artifacts from the time period of when that stuff was going on, because the park itself has actual slave cabins still on the property. I mean, are you gonna bulldoze the cabins? Like, what are we doing? I mean, are we just deleting it altogether? Because there's not a way to talk about slavery. I guess they're going to erase the slavery because it's denigrating that those people owned slaves. So they'll just say they were able to do all this stuff by themselves without any slave labor at all. And it was an amazing progress for America. I mean, I guess, I don't know. How are they going to have this without having that history? Shouldn't we keep the history so we can learn from it? Shouldn't we make sure that that history is there so that we know why this was bad, so we don't do it again as a people? I'm not saying it has to be shoved in your face every 2 seconds, but deleting it seems particularly odious. I don't see what good could come from trying to erase whole sections of our history and pretend like those things just didn't occur. How do you learn from history if they're erasing it in front of your face? Here's another one I came across. Hubble Trading Post National Historic Sites. They want to remove a publication that teaches you about how there used to be millions of these churro sheep, which were a type of sheep used by the Navajo people. There were millions and millions of these sheep, and then there was a new era deal in the 40s where they reduced these sheep and they nearly extincted them. By the 70s, there were fewer than 500 of these sheep left. It was done very purposefully. It was reported widely at the time, and there's a historic site where they talk about this, and you learn about that. You learn about what happened to these sheep that we used to have, which they're trying to bring back, just by the way. They're trying to bring these sheep back, and they've been doing programs to bring them back. But the point is there's a publication that talks about the forced reduction of these sheep almost to extinction. The park itself still owns several heads of the sheep that are used for interpretation. And it's flagged for review, like they just want to not teach about that. We're just not going to learn about it. Don't you think that maybe we should learn about how the government runs disastrous programs that are targeting specific groups of farmers economically? Because that's really what it was. They were targeting the economic independence of the people who were still farming these sheep. I mean, you can dress it up however you want and call it a new deal, but it's the same deal. And the deal is that the government does really horrible things all the time. So of course they'd want to cover up their own crimes, but it's just like so obvious if you look at this, why they're removing this. And once I looked that up, then I had to ask myself about the buffalo, because we all know that the buffalo was also another one of these things where it was hunted almost to extinction on purpose. Side note really quick, but I just learned that apparently there were never any buffalo in the United States or North America. It was always the bison. That buffalo are native to Africa and Asia. So, but it got mistranslated when people first came here. And sure enough, Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge in Oklahoma has a environmental education center, and there is an exhibit about the Hall of Shame that documents the near extinction of the American bison. And they want to flag that for removal. Because, and I quote, while the verbiage is factual, the title was flagged as potentially disparaging past Americans. So we're also going to remove that too, I guess. We're just going to lie to ourselves, everyone, about what actually happened. I guess the bison just flew away one day. They just all flew away off into space, just flying space bison or whatever, right? But other things are even more ridiculous, like Death Valley, for example. In Death Valley, there is a native tribe known as the Shoshone. They actually passed a law a few decades ago that transferred 7,800 acres from the Death Valley National Park to the tribe, including a 314-acre parcel at Furnace Creek, which is inside the park that encompasses the Timbisha Village sites. So Death Valley is the first and only U.S. national park that has now returned some of the land to the indigenous inhabitants that originally were there. They put homeland of the Timbisha Shoshone at the bottom of the park's entry signage because they're literally inside the park. They live in there, okay? They're still there today. They live there. And the Trump administration wants to delete the language that acknowledges that this tribe is there from the visitor center. They want to delete there's like a thing in the visitor center that tells you about the tribe. It's an informational area. And they want to delete that language. And when they interviewed the tribal historic preservation officer about this, the person straight up said, I don't think they understand that we're in the middle of the national park. Like, we live there. You can't delete us. We live there. We live there. You can't really delete us. We fucking live there. This is so stupid. This is so stupid. This is like, you want to talk about dumbing people down. This is literally dumbing it. This is so idiocracy level of stupid right here. It really is. There's no way to delete the things that have occurred on this land. They tried that once before when the country was founded, and guess what? It still didn't work, because here we are with all this history that can't be, like, they're trying to erase it again, I guess, but they tried to erase it already. It never worked the first time. This doesn't work. Erasing history doesn't work. Here's another sign that I just happened to come across in the files, which the files are not separated out, the raw files by locations, but this is a battery on Point Peter. It's talking about the War of 1812 in here, and it talks about how the British promised to respect the townspeople and their possessions in St. Mary's, but their word was quickly broken as they plundered the stores, homes, and church and took unarmed citizens as prisoners of war. This particular attack here happened after the word came from Ghent that the war had ended, so actually this attack was unwarranted, and they left this town in shambles. The war was actually over, but they just didn't know. And so they destroyed a town for no reason because the war had already ended. But they're going to take this sign down because it denigrates the British. Like, we can't even tell ourselves the truth about anything having to do with our actual history of this country. Even the fact that we fought a war with the British, because we can't denigrate them in the War of 1812. Like, what are they going to do? We can't be making people who did bad things feel bad about the bad things they did in the past. But we might be making someone feel bad who's dead. Their dead body is in the ground rotting, and the little particles of what's left of their eroded corpse feels bad. That is so rude. How can you possibly? That is so mean of you. You are hurting their fifis. How dare you? How dare you? We can't just have any adults in the room, right? We're just not allowed to have any adults left in the room. Just none. Because, I mean, you can't make the British feel bad about the War of 1812. Like, there's not anybody alive today who was alive during the War of 1812. If they are, they've lived a very, very long life and are probably impervious to any commentary on that, okay? If someone is sitting around trying to take it personal that somebody said something about someone in the War of 1812, we should not bend the laws of reality to that person. If that's who they want to be in this world, then we should, actually, the entire world should just make fun of them. That's what I think. Because that's a stupid thing to get upset about. That is dumb, really. Like, get a life for real. Have something. There's more important things going on right now than you getting offended about a war that happened like 2 centuries ago. Can we just all agree on that, maybe? I don't know. Like, I'm so over this whole time period of it's so stupid. I can't talk about it without my chest catching on almost literal fire, for real. It feels like a burning sensation inside of my body. It just makes me so heinously angry. I don't want to sound like a PMS witch. I just feel, seriously though, like, what in the hell? Because we spent the entire Biden administration being lectured on safe spaces and hurting people's feelings by the right, who was like, oh, you guys need to grow up. And now look at this. This is like taking that whole phenomenon of safe spaces and coddling adults like they're little babies and stuff. This is like that on steroids and crack in an opium den. That is what this is like, okay? It's worse. It's so infinitely worse. And if you can't see that, then I don't know what else to tell you. You probably shouldn't even be watching my videos. But, like, for real though, this is bad. It's so dumb. It's like we're just hurting ourselves. We're just hurting ourselves over and over and over. Well, we aren't. I'm not doing it. You're not doing this. Idiots are doing this. This is what idiots do. There's not enough safe spaces in the world to change the history of this particular country and make it pleasant. There have been great, amazing things accomplished here, but there have been dark, horrifying, entire horror films of things that have occurred here. It's all things. It's all things, guys. And you can't just have one without the other. That just isn't how anything works. You wouldn't know what light was if there wasn't darkness. That's just how it is. That's just how things are. Like, we can't We can't live in a magic coddled Truman Show world of everything being good all the time without facing reality, because that's not reality. And there's something about that I feel is infinitely more horrifying than just the truth. Why are we so scared of ourselves? I would rather know. I would rather know the truth about things than be spoon-fed some pre-chewed chunk of tasteless mush that has no substance at all, no context. Ugh. It feels like just on top of everything else, this too. What's next? Maybe the guy will just film himself taking a dump on the White House lawn too, just right there in the open, just full on drop trow. Because what else is there left to do? Everything is shitty. It's so shitty.
Everything about him is dumb.
Because our history is dark. It is bloody. There were bad people who did bad things. And the reason we talk about that is so that we can learn lessons from that. But apparently we're at the point now where we're not going to learn anything anymore from history. We're just going to delete and whitewash it and let it go.
A small but specially trained group of workers is responsible for the vital records that affect the lives of every American. The National Archives may contain documents of the life of the humblest citizen, as well as mementos of our greatest figures. Actions and accounts are on file here that would stretch miles into the past, a past that at any moment is likely to turn into the future. In these files may be the proof that will identify a missing person, or that will establish a fact of American history that may be under dispute.
Kristen Bringle, MPCA Senior Vice President for the Government Affairs, in an online statement said the administration is suppressing truth, facts, and science at our national parks. And this should alarm every single American. This dangerous campaign to erase history and science is a tremendous insult to the national parks we know and love. It's not just an insult to the national parks, it's an insult to every single person here.
Now we take a look at this clip from New World Next Week.
Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I'm James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com. It's a little strange that these people just keep disappearing. We have got that story, plus UK bans controversial Negro. But first, Anthropic. All your 0 days are belong to Mythos from those mad scientists at theregister.com. For years, the information security community's biggest existential worry has been quantum computing blowing everybody else out of the water, all the classical encryption, and revealing all the world's secrets. Now they've got a new big bad, an AI model that can generate 0-day vulnerabilities. Anthropic made the model and named it Mythos. Thankfully, the AI company decided not to release it because it would break the internet, and not in a good way. AI models have reached a level of coding capability where they can surpass all but the most skilled humans at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities, your 0-day exploits. What Anthropic is describing is literally a 0-day engine. Engineers at Anthropic with no formal security training have asked Mythos Preview to find remote code execution vulnerabilities overnight and woken up the following morning to a complete working exploit. Fortunately, instead of releasing Mythos, Anthropic chose to provide a preview version to a set of industry partners and players so they can use it to find flaws in their systems before adversaries, black hats, do. The AI biz calls its limited release initiative Project Glasswing, one word. Participants include all the worst, you can name them. Amazon Web Services, Anthropic, of course, Apple, Broadcom, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan Chase, the Linux Foundation, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Palo Alto Networks. That doesn't mean that they can control what is open source, sidebar. And while this tech industry anti-rogues gallery scans their own systems with the purportedly perspicacious Mythos, Anthropic invited around 40 other organizations to participate in this introspective bug hunt, subsidized by up to $100 million in usage credits for Mythos Preview and $4 million in direct donations to open source security organizations. Maybe I'm already wrong. If that sounds like a bit like an arsonist handing out fire extinguishers, well, that's on you for being so cynical. Anthropic co-founder confirms company briefed the Trump administration on Mythos. That is from TechCrunch. Damn that Brandon for censoring our Coof posts. Love that orange man for working with him for the good. That one's from TechCrunch and a couple other related. Federal agencies skirt Trump's Anthropic ban to test its advanced AI model. You try and do that, regular suckers. Flirt all the laws and go against everything you've flapped your gums about for a decade. And we will just link straight to anthropic.com/glasswing. James, do you think they'll link back to us?
Oh, one can only hope. Here is the rub of this story. So feel free for people in the audience who are skeptical of AI and all sorts and whatever's being touted. Sure, be skeptical, because how can we know what Anthropic's Mythos can and cannot do? Maybe this is all just some PR to bump up Anthropic's stock charts or help their fortunes after having been banned by the U.S. military, right? But at the very least, there is a sort of underlying kernel of truth to this story, no matter what you believe about AI and its ability to bug hunt things that human beings can't, etc. And that's that whatever the case is or isn't, I won't say we'll never know, but we'll only know when we need to know, when whatever is revealed to us. Because I think the deeper underlying truth of this is that whatever it is, quantum computing or, the general AI or whatever is coming down the line, we'll be the last to know about it. And we'll only know about it when it's being used as a weapon against us by the intelligence agencies and the deep state that always has its first finger in every pie, technologically speaking. So that's the real story. Project Glasswing is in and of itself fascinating because, of course, it is Anthropic openly saying, yes, this is a conspiracy. We are conspiring with all these people that we're letting into the secret club to come and take a look at these exploits so that they can fix them, of course, right? And they'll all be patched so that, when this gets in the hands of the bad actors, they won't be able to use it against us. Something along those lines. But yes, as they say, they're already, of course, they are briefing the Pentagon. They're talking to intelligence agencies. Of course. I mean, we know that the internet and all of these big tech companies are fronts for the intelligence agencies in the first place. So it is no surprise that they will be the first in line of any development like this. And I think that's the underlying truth of a story like this one.
I think it's good that JP Morgan Chase that was listed off. Yes. That they're still in there because it shows sort of the respect for the old school of the old boys at Wall Street who used to essentially run the New World Order. Again, they've slightly shifted and pivoted over to the tech old boys. So as we enter the month of April and all those data centers are drinking up all our April showers, that is how we get going on New World next week, episode 626. Really interesting story here for our second one. I'm glad you guys brought this up. I have been following this a little bit on my Morning Monarchy, and we've talked about missing Chinese CRISPR scientists on New World Next Week before, but now missing nuclear official becomes one of the 10th person tied to a dark pattern surrounding U.S. secrets. Grabbing this from Daily Mail, Stephen Garcia, 48, vanished without a trace on August 28th, 2025. He was last seen leaving his Albuquerque, New Mexico home on foot, carrying only a handgun. Of course, New Mexico figures into this. An anonymous source told the Daily Mail that Garcia was a government contractor working for the confusingly titled Kansas City National Security Campus, KCNSC, a major facility in, that's right, Albuquerque, that plays a key behind-the-scenes role in America's national defense. Specifically, KCNSC manufactures more than 80% of all the non-nuclear components that go into building the military's nuclear weapons. Garcia allegedly served as a property custodian at KCNSC's New Mexico facility, giving him top-tier security clearance and broad access to the entire site's nuclear secrets. The government contractor's sudden disappearance marks the 10th person with ties to America's space or nuclear secrets who has died or mysteriously vanished in recent years, putting U.S. national security experts on edge. Moreover, 4 of these officials had vanished without a trace in almost the same manner as Garcia, and all had a connection to U.S. nuclear secrets or rocket technology. According to police in Albuquerque, Garcia was last spotted, of course, constant surveillance everywhere. It can't actually help find you or Nancy Guthrie, but it's constant and pervasive. Garcia was last spotted on surveillance cameras walking out of his home on Cattail Court Southwest in a green camouflage shirt and shorts just after 9 a.m. local time. He was seen carrying a handgun, and authorities warned that Garcia may be a danger to himself. James, maybe he got his marching orders voice to skull style. Why don't you pass the time by playing a little solitaire? That's the phrase that pays in the Manchurian Candidate documentary. However, the anonymous source disputed any suggestions that the nuclear official may have been suicidal or was battling mental health issues. He was a very stable person, they always say about the most stable people, adding that the possibility of Garcia being targeted by foreign spies makes the most sense. America's greatest ally could not be reached for comment. Former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker previously told the Daily Mail, "Our scientists have been targeted for a long time, especially in the Jack Parsons rocket propulsion area, by hostile foreign intelligence services." Days after Garcia's disappearance, KCNSC reportedly launched a desperate search for the missing contractor, including going through all of his stuff, work computers, emails, files, for any clues to his whereabouts, but they claim nothing has been found. It's a little strange that these people keep disappearing. I mean, he literally just walked off into the desert with a firearm and a bottle of water, and that was it, the source said, comparing it to the disappearance of Air Force General William Neal McCasland. And you know I've been following this on the Morning Monarchy. March 26th, rocket scientist, Air Force General, linked to UFOs vanish under strange, similar circumstances 5 months apart. And we will include one broad overview. Who are the U.S. scientists linked to NASA and military research vanished or died under unexplained circumstances? James, it doesn't really hit me sometimes that back in Portland, I was like, hell no, we won't use straws. But in New Mexico, it's like alien angels ate your president's Jesus meme. This place is wild down here, man.
And there's a historical reason for that, which I'll get into in a moment. But first, James, you've been doing this 21 years. I've been doing this 19 years. This is not our first rodeo. We have seen these types of mysterious patterns developing before, and I will cast people's minds back to the early 2000s with the missing microbiologists that were all the craze at that time. I know you talked about it on Media Monarchy. I talked about it on the Corbett Report. I'll throw a link in the show notes into episode 60 of the Corbett Report podcast back from 2008 on bioterror false flag, where I talked about that phenomenon and what it may or may not portend for a bioterror false flag that may or may not have eventuated in the past 5 years. Anyway, or how about the bankster suicides? Remember that in the wake of the global financial crisis, a couple of years later, we started to have this rash of banksters throwing themselves off of buildings and otherwise dying in sometimes mysterious circumstances. And there was a lot of speculation about that. So unfortunately, if there's anything that we can learn from these exercises in pattern recognition, it is that if there is some actual answer to this puzzle, if there really is a coordinated phenomenon that's happening here, again, we will be the last to know about it. What happened with those missing microbiologists? What happened with the bankster suicides? On to the next pattern. Now it's this. Okay, well, again, we're unlikely to find any definitive answer to this, at least at our level of the information pyramid. But if we were to make some informed speculation about it, which is all we can do, it certainly seems that we're being led along a certain direction, pointing out nuclear scientists and rocket scientists. I don't know. It sounds like we might be being prepped for oh my God, it's the Iranians. Of course, they're getting back for their nuclear program with our nuclear program. And you saw what they did. I mean, that would be an obvious false flag to run with information like this. But I know people are not tuning into New World Next Week for rational, level-headed, informed speculation. They want conspiratainment. So I will give you the conspiratainment you sneak straight into your veins with an article called The UFO Question and the Missing Physicists. It's up on UNS right now, and it is an in-depth, very long, very interesting, detailed article with lots and lots and lots and lots of facts in there. So I will let you explore that as you will in your own time. But I will just point out this, speaking specifically about the New Mexico connection, in this gigantic article that puts Epstein in with all of these characters and physicists, etc. It notes that asked why he, Epstein, had acquired Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, he was unambiguous. Los Alamos National Laboratory had been downsizing after the Cold War, laying off its nuclear weapons physicists and what he called the high priests of high energy physics, and he wanted to be close to them. So that's one piece of this gigantic puzzle, and it does seem to relate to some of the strangeness that takes place in New Mexico, specifically around classified high energy physics experiments, etc. And again, this could play into a whole other false flag, one that we were talking about just a few weeks ago, about the disclosure day is coming. And disclosure day actually just came and went. What happened? Oh, Pentagon update as the UFO deadline passes. How convenient. As in, oops, the letter that we were supposed to forward to whatever in order to get these files disclosed that Trump said he's going to release. Oh, that somehow didn't get passed on, so nothing has been released yet. But we're working on it, guys. We'll get it for you. Don't worry. We're digging up those UFO secrets. So I don't know. Could it be some sort of alien psyop false flag that might be the end of this rainbow? Stay tuned to find out. Get your conspiratainment popcorn ready, guys.
Well, and that's, the original main piece that I read for this segment didn't say anything about ufology or aliens. But as soon as you start to get off of the reservation, if you will, you'll find it is right there. The motherships are all hovering right overhead, James. And I would say now these past couple of weeks with Artemis, dude, space is cool again. Who cares if it's Trump and space farce? Who cares if it's a bunch of my taxpayer money used? I thought Elon was going to do all this stuff. No, they're back to stealing all the taxpayer money. So with Artemis making space cool again, of course, all the space is fake experts have come back out of the woodwork. Me, I still have all my World War III decorations up. Now there was, as it is, a rich tapestry, a giant concert festival over last weekend that takes place every year on Cabazon Native American burial grounds that are connected to bioweapons research and the Epstein-Maxwell world. That is the octopus, my friends. I do have a radio play about that. I'll tell you more at the end of this episode. But as long as we are talking about concerts, holy moly. UK Wireless Festival canceled after Kanye West banned from entering the country. This from The Guardian. The Wireless Music Festival has been canceled after the artist, formerly known as Kanye West, was banned from entering the UK amid a deepening political row over his previous anti-Semitic statements. West, legally known as Ye, was due to headline all 3 days of the festival in July and made an application to travel to the UK via what they call an electronic travel authorization, ETA, but this was blocked by officials. A spokesperson for the London Festival confirmed they're just going to cancel the whole thing. It will not go ahead in July, and said refunds would be issued to customers who had already bought tickets. The statement issued on Tuesday said the Home Office has withdrawn Ye's ETA, denying him entry into the United Kingdom. As a result, Wireless Festival is canceled and refunds will be issued to all ticket holders. As with every wireless festival, multiple stakeholders were consulted in advance of booking Ye, and no concerns were highlighted at the time. Anti-Semitism in all its forms is abhorrent, and we recognize the real and personal impact these issues have had. As Ye has said, he acknowledges that words alone are not enough, and that in spite of all this, he hopes to be given the opportunity to begin a conversation with the Jewish community in the UK. It is understood that the application was initially granted online, but was rescinded by Home Office ministers, that is, the government, after review on the grounds that his presence in the UK would not be conducive to the public good. The rapper has been criticized for making anti-Semitic remarks, including Ninja How Hitler, a few months after selling swastika t-shirts for sale on his website. Over the weekend, Keir Starmer joined criticism of the festival, saying it was deeply concerning that Ye had been booked to perform, despite his previous anti-Semitic remarks in celebration of Nazism, which isn't capitalized. The decision to ban Ye left the wireless. It is so funny, again, what mainstream liberal journalism is like, we're going to capitalize this now, and we're not going to capitalize that. We'll show you. The decision to ban Ye left the wireless organizers with 3 headline slots to fill with 3 months' notice. The ban came on the day that pre-sales began for the summer's events, which were already competing in a busy field of London Day festivals because they don't make money selling records. The organizers' approach of using one A-list name to headline 3 back-to-back days meant options for a new artist were limited. They've apparently done this before successfully. They had Drake headline 3 nights in a row, and no concerns were highlighted at the time. This was all well after all of his nutty Yahoo-ness of the last few years. They knew all of that was going on. It almost seems to me like sometimes money might be more important to them than their alleged moral stances and pearl clutching. It's kind of like they're more into dollar clutching. But as I said to you, James, before we started rolling, getting banned by an entire country is pretty gangster. And it doesn't end. Ye postpones France gig following wireless festival ban, so it kind of looks like his entire UK tour plans are all falling apart. And isn't it funny, James? Isn't it funny? They suddenly care about borders.
Yeah, very good observation, right? Yeah, but borders matter in this case, don't they? Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. This is where ideology is actually what underlines and tells on people and the actions that they are taking. Because, sure, I understand there are people who are greatly offended by the things that Ye has said in recent times. And sure, I understand that. The question is, what do you do about that? And if we were in a position where we treat people as responsible, individual, sovereign human beings who can make up their own minds and do their own things, then the proper response, if you are offended and outraged and you don't like this person in the music, sure, first of all, you don't go to the festival. Second of all, sure, you protest, you tell other people, you say you shouldn't go to that, whatever, you make your argument. Absolutely. But no. Let's ban this person from international travel. Not because of any specific illegal thing that he is engaged in, but because he is who he is, or he said what he said, right? So the answer then becomes to take this broad act of keeping people safe. And of course, that's the way this is all framed, right? Oh, it's to protect you that we're going to ban the movements of this human being. Of course, it's not really about protecting people. What is this really about? The government is not like, oh, think of the poor children. No, the government is using this as one of those test cases that it always does. Let's ban this super controversial figure from every social media platform, and everyone will go along with it because he's a super controversial figure. Let's ban this person from international travel, and people will go along with it because he was a super controversial guy. And guess what? It doesn't end there. That's just the thin edge of the wedge, because that's the precedent by which they will be able to do this to more and more people in the future. Well, you went along with it for Ye, so why don't you go for it with this guy or that guy? And eventually they're banning everyone that they don't like from international travel. So anyway, that's what this is really about. It's not about keeping people safe. But again, if we treat people as responsible adults who can make their own decisions, then absolutely don't support this person. Don't buy their work. Don't go to their festival, etc. And if the market decides, they will die economically. And there you go. Problem solved, right? Oh no, we can't let people make their own decisions. That would be wrong.
Won't someone think of the children we give puberty blockers and MAGA jabs to? So yeah, they're pearl clutching, they're false cries. And I was a lifelong concert goer. I've seen some of the raddest concerts. I've seen Fugazi in DC multiple times. And I've said, though, for decades now on Monarchy, all your concerts belong to them. I think it shows how important it is for them to control it. And James, you might have to move up your visits. So for everyone watching at home, playing along at home, I went to Japan on the 10th anniversary of New World next week, and we always said James has to come to America for the 20th anniversary of New World next week, but it's looking like he might have to move up his visit. Instead of 2029, you might have to come in 2026 to the Darker Waves Music Festival in Huntington Beach, California. Headliners, Morrissey and Pumpkins. Tickets on sale now. Pay over time with layaway plans. Yep, it says that right there on the page. That's a whole other segment to get my jimmies all rustled. Morning Monarchy, March 6th. Are sky-high concert ticket prices sustainable for the live business? Concerts have gone from regular teenage entertainment to expensive destination events. It's kind of like how Sesame Street was for the poors, but now it's all paywalled. And just a few hours ago, we'll throw in one little bit of the giant. Again, they wouldn't try this hard if they didn't know how important controlling the mindscape of rock and roll is. Live Nation operated as monopoly and overcharged customers jury fines. So they are overcharging you for these giant concert events that control what choice you have about your entertainment dollar. Also, I know the Beatles were created by Tavistock and it's all a psyop. My daily radio stream, however, is not paywalled, and you get to hear the exclusive audio of these New World Next Week episodes before the video. Any of it is published anywhere, and you can hear that at MediaMonarchy.com/listen, and you can get the original Octopus radio play at NewWorldNextWeek.com, performed with all West Virginia crew. The story of Danny Casolaro dying in Martinsburg, West Virginia, as he was on the trail of the octopus, which connects to something that's been in the news a lot these last couple of years. Of course, the Epstein-Ghislaine-Maxwell enterprise. I also have the New Mexico P.O. Box. Hopefully McCaslin didn't steal in my mail, but that is another way you can support our work that keeps us fear-free and ad-free, James. You said, and I appreciate you, man. 21 years nearly of Monarchy, never an advertisement, never shilling some weird product. The work is the product. And if it resonates with you, again, we can only do this with your support.
You know, James, speaking of informed speculative conspiratainment, I think this is proof positive that the intelligence agencies are whispering in the ears of Morrissey and Billy to get them to come to this concert because they knew it would draw us there, and then they could take out the whole concert and destroy the alternative media in one fell swoop. Add that to your conspiratainment bucket. Anyway, we'll see what eventuates. But thank you for the stories. Looking forward to doing it again next week.
As always, my buddy. I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Fuck this shit. I'm just gonna dance now. Fuck this shit. Cause we don't have a chance now. The whole world is fucking gone to hell. Makes me wanna fucking scream and yell. Fuck this shit. I'm just gonna dance now. Fuck this shit. Cause we don't have a chance now.
Guys, all rock. Thank you for being here and hanging out and being a part of the show. We do love the hell out of you, and we can't do the damn thing without you. It's a value for value gig here. If you're new here, you're kind of, just getting into the thing. This is how the show works. Every time you see not only AM Wake Up, but every other show that airs on the channels, all of that content comes to you for free. Nothing is ever going to be put behind a paywall. There's no subscribe to this to get that. You don't have to learn a secret handshake. We get $0 from advertisers. We get $0 from paid sponsors. That's why you don't hear 10 or 12 minutes of ad reads and shit at the beginning of the show or throughout it, because it doesn't exist in this environment. Instead, if you guys see value in what we're doing, you like the conversations, you like the guests, you like the jokes, whatever it is. If you see value in that, send it this way, and that's how we get to do the thing. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can participate. There's a couple of things that we definitely need to see from you guys. Most importantly, time, talent, and treasure. Time and talent, because it's just me doing all of the things 7 days a week in order to make sure that you guys see this stuff and I participate and hit the fucking like button. It's not going to break your wrist. I promise. On the talent end, if you make clips, please do that and get them out there. I don't care if 3 people are going to see it. If you tag us, we'll retweet it too, and then 3 more people are going to see it. The way that we're buried in the algorithm. But it helps. Every little bit helps. Exact same philosophy applies to the treasure part. Every little bit helps. If you're at all in a position to contribute to independent media, all of the direct donate links, including Bitcoin, are in the description. So if you have, 55 Bitcoin and you want to give the show 1, it's going to get dispersed to at least 5 other content creators that day.
Kind of a fucking ass clown wouldn't have the heart and compassion to donate to baby Steve.
Now, let's take a look at some highlights from AM Wake Up from this week. Make sure to support and share their show to keep this great channel going. Share the show. Share the show. Share the show.
Share the fucking show.
A non-famous Shane Gillis gets beat up a little. I'm just saying, and I like Shane Gillis, by the way, but you know what I mean.
He's actually got material about that. He does.
Really?
It's like fairly early on too, like pre-fame Shane. Looks like he's in like a high school library or something like that. Half the audience is his family.
Totally believable. I mean, I even remember in Eddie Murphy's history, he talked about, I couldn't fight, so I had to tell jokes. You know what I mean? Although his brother could apparently fight, right? Charlie could fight apparently, but Eddie couldn't.
I don't want to do his material or anything, but like the basic run through is that he usually wins fights, but he's got his eyes closed and he's crying. Like it doesn't get tough at all. Because he's giant. He's a huge dude. And so, it's usually drunk guys that want to pick a fight with him. And it's him like throwing haymakers, landing one, totally flattening a dude, and being like, I don't want to do this. Yeah. Fucking lurching away.
I mean, that is partially why I feel so blessed to only be 6 feet tall, because most men in my family are larger. I'm a small guy in my family. And I love the fact that I'm 6 foot tall, because when you stick up too big, inevitably somebody will want to test their courage or, take down the big man. It's just the way of things. The one time I actually got knocked out cold in a bar one time was because some guy was pissed because his girlfriend was all over my fresh tattoo, and I'm like, oh man, I hate having attention drawn to me when I'm not on a stage or something. It's like, oh no, please lady, leave me alone. And she wouldn't leave me alone. And this little guy, got all pissed and got all up on me and he wanted to fight me. But here's the problem, his big friend. And amazingly, right, what happens is I make up with the little guy. I explain to him, listen, man, I don't know your woman. I don't know nothing about it. She's just all over me because of the tattoo. He goes, yeah, she loves tattoos. I said, well, that's the problem, bro. It's just my tattoo. It's not me. I'm not even interested. No offense. Your woman's not even my type. Serious, dude. Serious. Back up, He was really drunk, and so was his friend. So he goes to slam dance a little bit, or mosh, or whatever it is you want to call it, in the pit. And he gets thrown out of the joint. And somehow this guy equates that with, I probably complained to the bouncers because he saw me talking to the bouncers and the barmaid and this and that. And he thought I got him thrown out of there. So what happens? His big friend comes over and, did the whole drunken celebratory thing with me before when we made peace over the tattoo and the woman, right? But this time, big man comes over, grabs one of my hands, holds it real tight, and sucker punches me. And like he had to hit me 3-4 times, but really I only remember the first hit and a half, and the rest of it I was unconscious for, and I fell on the floor. And the next thing I know is a really cute, bartender lady had a towel with ice on my face, going, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Because they knew me there, but I didn't get the guy thrown out. That's the funny part. Anyway, why did I tell you that story? I have no idea.
That's
sorry, Steve. I do that.
That's funny. So let's set the scene here with Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump for a month and a half now, a little bit longer possibly, has been screaming at the Iranians, open the damn Straits of Hormuz, which were
or he was going
totally open
he was going
to everybody but the U.S. and Israel.
Right. And he was going to send them to hell and decimate them even more than he decimated them. And there would be a reckoning, and they'd be on their knees and they were all going to die. I mean, there was some pretty harsh rhetoric there.
The
Some people
annihilation
say
of civilization. Yeah.
annihilation of civilization. I
Right.
don't know how you speak in stronger terms, outside of what I'm going to do is genocide you with tremendous prejudice. I don't know how else you say that harsher, right? I mean, do you have a
Mhm.
better way? Do you have a more extreme
No,
way?
I don't. It's the whole Amalek thing. The Bibi was referencing when they first started their extermination campaign in Gaza, which is you don't just kill all of the fighting age men, you kill everyone, every living being, all of their livestock, and then you salt their fields, and you wait 7-10 years, whatever, until the soil comes back, and then you go ahead and absorb that land, that territory.
Right.
Yeah, you make it like a generational thing, and you make it so that the history books will forget their names until your bloodthirsty not necessarily descendants, but people who have co-opted that particular faith for expansionist, colonial, atheist purposes, um, need to bring it up at any given point where they feel like they might be able to play a victim card. Anyway,
Yeah, and after all, in humanity's history, I mean, there must always be a Xerxes to succeed Darius. So we must continue with the rolling, great, tremendous empire, one way or another. And you do that, mainly through intimidation, earth or water. Yes.
Didn't Xerxes also do it with like nipple rings?
Well, that was one interpretation,
I mean, yeah. Everybody's got to have a hobby, I guess. Right?
This is Sparta. I'm going to run around in just a a jockstrap and a cape, and we're going to go to war. But anyway, yeah, that too.
Yeah. I'm not saying Frank Miller's gay. I'm not. Hollywood, definitely gay.
But the set designers, etc., they may in fact be somewhat homoerotic. I mean, just somewhat.
That's fair. But have you seen? You've seen, of course, and folks out there, Blazing Saddles, the cinematic masterpiece, comedic standout film from Mel Brooks, the great Gene Wilder. Trump is doing exactly this with the Strait of Hormuz.
Hold it. The next man makes a move, the nigger gets it.
Hold it, man. He's not bluffing.
Listen to him, man. He's just crazy enough to do it.
Rob it, or I swear I'll blow this nigger's head all over this town. Oh, Lordy Lord, he's desperate. Do what he say. Do what he say.
That is exactly what's happening right now in Iran and the Persian Gulf and the Straits of Hormuz. Because after a month and a half of screaming to the 400 people that are still unironically on Truth Social, and then everyone else that's there to just sort of hate watch the shit show, open the straits. He said, we're going to close the strait. If you don't open it, we'll close it. And it's like, you dummy. And I guess this was enough to emergency reroute traffic of super tankers to the Gulf of America. That's what we're being told. Now, Chuck, I am not very nautically inclined. Okay, I grew up in a landlocked state. Did not spend a lot of time in or on the ocean as a child. By the time I moved to California, I did not have a place in my life for a new religion, so I did not become a surfer, even though I lived in and around Santa Cruz County. So it's just not my thing. But it seems to me that if you were a super tanker that was en route to Iran, yes, this is true. I don't want to be anywhere where human beings aren't the apex predator. I have been very, very open about this. Call it whatever you want. I don't care, but no, I fully, land pirate, not seafaring pirate. At any rate, but no,
Listen, I get it. I mean, I was accustomed to the Atlantic Ocean myself, and of course, I lived on an island called Manhattan briefly. But I mean, still, it's not like I'm any more nautical than you. Isn't there a strange disconnect here, though?
Well, okay,
About,
so yeah, I mean, I say that because as someone who is not nautically inclined, where's Nature Boy when you need him? I don't know how long it would take to reroute a super tanker that was coming from, I don't know, Southeast Asia or something like that to go pick up via Strait of Hormuz into one of those ports, be it, UAE or Iran, to reroute them all the way around the freaking what was that, Horn of Africa, Cape, South Africa, all the way around there, Cape Hope, whatever the fuck it is, into the Gulf of America. How long do you think that would take? Because Donald Trump announced it, and immediately the imagery came out of all of these ships that were now in the Gulf of America. And again, I don't know. It seems like, though, it would take more than a couple of hours to go all the way around Africa and across the Atlantic Ocean to the Gulf of America. I don't know. But any thoughts as to because it seems like it would take longer than an afternoon. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm not going to pretend to know that that I know the ins and outs of exactly how that works, the amount of time it takes. I'm not even going to pretend that. I mean, anybody can draw a line on a map and get a general idea if you believe the map, etc. But I mean, the truth is, logistically, a lot of things don't make sense. And here's again my weird thing to consider, right? All the false flag operations that get operated. Here we go again. I'm going to get disrupted, right?
Are you? I guess so.
Yeah, no, I'm here now. Anyway, yeah, for some reason, false flag stuff, right? You would think that we would be capable of hiring a shell company to disguise the actual, ID on a tanker, or hire somebody else's tankers that are friendly to the Iranians one way or another, and get this stuff by if we needed to, etc. And the we I'm using in general because it could be anybody's interest. Why not just attach a different flag, hire a foreign nation to have a different destination just to get it by right then and there? You know what I mean? Like, we can't falsify paperwork and manifests. I mean, we do have a CIA still. I mean, in case people forgot, and we got lots of other government agencies that are fully capable of forgery and everything else. I mean, just check out your taxes you just did. You know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, for those of you that did, it just is what it is. So look, there's a lot of unanswered questions here. That's the way I see it. And
yeah,
go ahead.
I looked it up. In the meantime, it takes, under the best conditions possible, via the Suez Canal, it takes 20 days for a super tanker hauling ass to go from port in the UAE to the Gulf of America, like port to port in what is that, Corpus Christi or whatever, under the best possible conditions, 20 days. You add 8 to 11 days going around Africa and the Cape of Good Hope. Thank you to the people in the chat who rattled my memory on that one. So under the best possible conditions, 28 days to go around Africa to get to Texas, add another day possibly for New Orleans, maybe not, just depends on how it's going. So all of the ships that suddenly rerouted and showed up in the Gulf of America had to have known almost to the day a month and a week ago. This is just from like that general area to reroute if you have to go around Africa. If they're coming from Southeast Asia, then it's the trip to, you don't have to go up and into the Persian Gulf, but you have to get from Southeast Asia to the Gulf of America. And either way, if you're going the Pacific Ocean up through the Panama Canal and back, it's still a hell of a trip. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's no way all of those ships are in the Gulf of America, super tankers filling up with beautiful American oil that rerouted it. If this was an action that at least their insurers and other, and all of the people who run maritime shipping lanes and shit like that weren't aware of at least a month ago. That's what I'm saying. Or it's fake.
Well, see, here's the reality when it comes to supply. Well, yeah, but here's the reality when it comes to supply chain and fuel. And again, I did work for ExxonMobil briefly, right? The deal is that, it is the supply chain is 60 days behind. They make price changes for you at the retail level. They declare things to be instantaneous all the time, whether a pipeline bursts or, they had that oil rig that imploded or whatever, or they have, tankers that bust and spill, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or we have a war in the Middle East. They claim all kinds of things about the supply chain that never make any sense because the actual reality of whatever the hell is going on today cannot touch, retail market until, months later. But the reactive part of it is always out in front. Now, I don't mean to say this as like that's the standard for war, but what I'm saying is that they never reveal the truth about where stuff is, how much is actually there, if there's a glut in the supply or if there's a shortage for real. They declare shortages when they anticipate them all the time. And if you notice, they draw back on the intensity of the problem a lot slower than they announce the intensity of the problem, whether, again, it's a busted pipeline, a refinery went down, et cetera, right? So the truth is that at the end of the day, even all the best information we're going to gather is not the oil companies being truthful for security reasons, for national security, for yada, 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 on and on. So, we don't even have the information. That's the truth of it. And frankly, based on the information they have given us, it shouldn't really affect us if that oil is not coming from there. Like, in other words, there could be adjustments made to where that makes no difference to the U.S. market. But of course, it does make a difference to other parts of the world. And therefore, they say that, creates a ripple effect that affects us directly, but not instantaneously. And yet you see that stuff, instantaneously announced as here's the effect, here's the problem. This is going to happen tomorrow because this happened today. And it's really ridiculous. it's like declaring Amber Alerts because you think somebody's going to kidnap your kid tomorrow. I mean, this is what they're doing. And you may be well informed about that, or you may not, or you might just be manipulating the market, you know? And I found it hilarious that there wasn't more questions when, the oil price literally dropped to a negative number. That was hysterical. It's almost like you're supposed to be paid to store it, because now it costs negative, $20 a barrel. Well, doesn't that mean you pay me $20 to take the barrel of oil now? I thought, but
Right.
Oh no, it doesn't work that way. Okay, sorry. And believe me, people are licking their chops, and there is no shortage of money being made by the oil consortiums. And, business as usual continues on, and the right people benefit. And, hey, look, there's also boots on the ground, but pay no attention to that because they haven't really gone in just yet. And we're firing, $1 million weapons at people that are using $1,000 responses. So, eventually, they're going to outlast us if this continues for a long time. Because again, if you got $1,000 drone versus our $1 million bomb, the equation is not going to go well in the long run. It's just that simple. Oh, and by the way, we're going to spend a few more trillion, I guess, in another adventure in the sand. But
so I mean,
again,
I guess
it's all for the common good.
I guess every single oil company then just has a ghost fleet of super tankers that they keep in dry dock all over the Gulf of America. I mean, it's possible. Seems rather expensive, but it's possible. They can just drop in the water in case something like this happens, and they can look, because again, it did, Sunday, that's yesterday, where Trump is very angry at the Straits. Trump often appears to be more angry at the Straits than the gays. But that's another.
Oh, help me out with something else, by the way. What happened? What? No, I just need a little help with something else because I might have missed it on the news because I was busy with some things and trying to get stuff together. And I also had my birthday last week, so I might have missed it somewhere. Wasn't there like a ceasefire that was supposed to have happened as well, and then didn't really happen, and now nobody talks about it? Also, did that happen, or did I have a dream?
The problem is that despite the best negotiators in the world and the intentions of them, there's always a little bit of miscommunication, mistranslation during these negotiations. For example, the Iranian word, the Farsi word for ceasefire, sounds exactly like the Hebrew word for "you guys keep bombing us." So much in the same way that in Arabic, the word for school sounds exactly like the Hebrew phrase for Hamas headquarters, right? Or the way hospital sounds like Hamas headquarters, or the way that a moving bus full of children translates to Hamas headquarters. So it's just a problem in that the Hebrew language, with its many inflections and and is one of those things where
I see
it gets a little garbled, and now in turn, that's what.
Yeah, just slow this down for the blind guy a little bit. So what you're telling me is that, the words for "I surrender," "I'm a civilian," or "I'm press" actually all sound like the phrase "please kill me," when it's spoken in Arabic and heard to the Israeli listener. That's the way it translates. "Please kill me."
Yeah,
Like, I want to die. Okay,
translates
I'm
to
just
a
checking.
literal request for assassination, direct request. And in case there's any question, also "I'm press" sounds exactly like "I am a terrorist," and I give you, person pointing the weapon at me, power of attorney. It's a very broad language, Hebrew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then children playing also sounds like I'm an enemy combatant, no matter what noise they make in their
Right.
language too, right?
Right. Yeah. There's
Just check.
a particular training process that every IDF soldier goes through that gives them the ability to just sort of go into a fugue state anytime they hear the sound of Palestinian children playing. And to them, that is the most fear inducing sound they could ever possibly hear. And it triggers a chemical response in their brain to make sure that they call in a series of sniper attacks on these kids. They're so afraid, Chuck, poor guys. They're so afraid of these toddlers and like 9 and 10-year-olds that they can't even approach them in physical combat. That's how terrifying the sounds of Palestinian children are. So they have to call in their buddies to shoot at them from 700 yards, maybe a mile away. In some cases, especially if they get kids that are aged 7 to 10 playing soccer. That is the most terrifying thing to a platoon of IDF soldiers. So they have to call in multiple snipers, if not a full-on missile strike. So terrified are they. And yeah, I mean, it's a rough process, but soldiering ain't for everyone, unless you're also Israeli, where you're
Well, that's
conscripted into the military. Yeah, go ahead.
And Kabbalah might indeed teach you to be afraid of satanic Muslim soldiers that are 3 years old, I suppose, because they are the most dangerous. I mean, we all did see those. What were those movies where the children were all possessed and it was really boring because there were camcorders all over the house? What was the name of that again? I forget, but it doesn't matter. The Arabic version of it goes on because Kabbalah, yeah?
Yeah, and I have no idea what movie you're talking about, but I fucking suck at movies. Born or
It doesn't matter.
Anytime
It
since
really
after
doesn't
my kids were born. Yeah,
It's one of those. It's one of those. They just have camcorder footage of everything in the house for like the whole movie. They made like 5 of them. I forget, but it's really irrelevant because the key point is I'm learning a lot today, and I appreciate it, Steve. This is really brand new information to me. So thank you.
Yeah, we're here. We're here to help. It's what we do on this show. It's one of the things that we pride ourselves in.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Oh Lord, do we have any comedy lined up? Anything? Because I mean, I'm almost ready to break Dabbleverse stuff out, but not just yet. We got something else.
There's a few places that we could go. I did want to, like I said, they're threatening, they're shutting down. Supposedly it's happened. Trump said 10 a.m. East Coast time.
Okay.
So we should be a half an hour into the complete shutdown of the Straits of Hormuz. I don't believe that that's what's happening yet. Let's start here. I think I rolled this on Friday, but it's too good. So Mark Norman has a new show that he's doing through YouTube, I think. But he sold it to somebody. Okay. Let's see. And the premise is like a handful of comedians go out in front of a room, in front of an audience. They have no idea what kind of audience. The only thing that they know, I think, is that the audience is all comprised of the same group of people. So in this case, they're going out in front of a room of only Gen Z women.
Wow.
So
do you foresee Jenny Jones style murder lawsuits coming out of this thing eventually? I mean, is that a possibility? Remember that the Jenny Jones murder lawsuit with the secret crush?
I don't think so. I don't think so. At least I hope not. But I guess time will tell. Dude. But yeah, so this is just a taste of it. I would recommend giving it a look if you're, if you're into watching potential train wrecks.
Good to be here. I used to date a girl who lived in this neighborhood. Jewish gal. Any Jews here? Hey, all right. Get them. No, I'm kidding. Just joking. Good to have you. Thanks for tunneling. Yeah. Ex-girlfriend was Jewish. Met her on that Jewish app, PayPal. All right. I'll be a little darker than the other guy as well. Not the black. But, hey, thank you. Just joking. I'm a comedian. Don't worry. Just zingers. Okay. How about that Mamdani? Oh, yeah. There you go. He won. I live next to a billionaire, so he was like, I'm praying to God he doesn't win. I was like, well, he won, so you better start praying 5 times a day. Oh, yeah. He was like, oh, he's a Muslim, though. He's going to be mean to women. I'm like, you're thinking of Cuomo. Okay. All right. And they're like, well, he's anti-Semitic. I'm like, well, he's doing free buses, not trains. Okay. That's for the Jewish gal. All right. We're back. Cool.
Yeah.
Wow, these people don't. This audience does not know whether to laugh or not.
This is
a unique concept because the audience is the feature in the reaction here, as opposed to like normally it's a big focus on the comedian. You don't hardly see the audience unless somebody heckles or some nonsense, right? Or they do some crowd sweeps, BS, blah blah, and they pipe in noise too. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of specials, it's like not the noise that's actually happening in the room, but you see the pictures, you hear the noise. So it seems like they're making noise in the right spots and everything. But it's funny to me because they have to leave this alone, or maybe they're editing it to amplify the effect. I don't know. That's funny.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Fantastic concept. I think they all get like 10 minutes or something like that. So they've got everybody in the room for basically an hour. You know what I mean? 5 comedians, 10 minutes, couple of minutes introduction or explaining, what the show is and stuff like that for the people who are slow or don't know why they're there. Their friend brought them or something like that. And yeah. Dude, and I mean, the kinds of people that you can just lump into a group and stuff into that room are fantastic. I dig it.
Yeah, well, and it's truly an accomplishment that they kept Gen Z people in a room for more than an hour, because I mean, to my experience, they have no attention spans whatsoever. So, I mean, the fact that they got them to sit still for an hour is a freaking feat in and of itself. And then the zingers on top of it, that's just beautiful. You can see part of the crowd reacting and the people they're focusing on just like, what? Like outrage in 3, 2, and then he hits him with another joke. His clip is helping him, his pace, because they're so busy dancing from the first bullet, Neo can't quite make the second bend. You know what I mean? It's hilarious. Oh wow!
Well, and I mean, some things. What I love about comedy in general, and especially Mark Norman's, just I don't know. He's like half half of it is clearly inspired by Norm Macdonald. You know what I mean? And a lot of his timing and stuff
Right.
like that, which I hey, look, I approve of. I'm not, not knocking him or anything like that. And then conceptually, you can tell that like Louis was at least an inspiration. like he grew, came into comedy as a huge fan of Louis C.K.'s. And so when you're doing comedy like that, yes, absolutely. People don't even have time to be offended by like the fifth or sixth punch because they're still reacting to the first or second at the and so comedy has a way of just sneaking by. And sometimes people can't help but just laughing because something is genuinely funny, even if they know there's, like after the fact, they're like, shit, I wasn't supposed to laugh at that. But they were already put so off guard, or like they're fucking punch drunk at that point anyway, that
Yeah.
it lands.
It's like the beauty. Yeah, it's like the beauty of boxing, right? A very effective jab makes it not only so you're setting up your own punches, but you're not allowing the receiver of the punches to set up and get at you. So you keep them off balance with that jab. It's not, for most people, it's not the knockout, blow, but it's an effective thing to do many things with, depending on how you use it. And, a comedian that can really jab and then deliver the uppercut is always the best. You know what I mean? Because they just keep you rolling, and then boom, hit you with a big one. And then by the time you even recover from that, you're getting jabbed again 3 times. They pump that into your eye, a couple more. And that's the beauty of it to me, So, and that's why I love that pace. That was perfect pacing for what he was dealing with.
So I'm sure I'm sure the audience heard Melania Trump held a random press conference in the foyer of the White House to tell everybody that she had absolutely nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, despite decades worth of pictures and video placing them all together in very close company, having a grand old time. It was, I'm not going to play all of this. It was just weird,
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
She's Erica Kirkin on people.
Stop it. Just stop it.
That's Erica Kirk Crazy Eye right there. That's it.
There is no evidence whatsoever, despite all the pictures and videos of me with Jeffrey Aguilera Maxwell.
So when I saw this, I was like, oh, it's fucking perfect. Ah, shit. Crap. It's fucking volume. Thanks, StreamYard. Appreciate it. You guys rock. Let's try that again. This time with audio. Freaking clowns. Why is this? Here we go. Fuck. Thanks, StreamYard. All right. Try this one more time. There we are. Do that.
Everybody listen to me. I've never been friend with Jeffrey, okay?
Totally. I totally have no idea what you said. But hey, is this you?
It's possible for 2 people to go to same party. I don't know him. It's in my book.
Oh, for fuck's sakes, who gave her a microphone? It's like every paragraph is a fucking survival challenge.
This is not fair. It's very disrespectful.
Thank God for the fucking subtitles. Somebody find that guy. Give him a fucking raise.
Donald and I do not know him. We don't do.
What the fuck are you talking? Your words are doing parkour.
The mean Democrats are defaming my reputation.
This is why they like Kid Rock, because when you play it after this shit, it kind of sounds like fucking music. Jeffrey didn't introduce me to Donald. I met him by chance. It's documented. It's in my book. Hey, does your book fit in your suitcase? Maybe you should pack it up and get the fuck out of here.
Yes.
Be best.
I really don't
Every
care.
time the words out. I don't care, do you? And fuck Christmas. I don't give a shit. Fuck Christmas. Look, every time she opens her mouth, it's a show, man. It's great. I mean, those Einstein visas are just, aptly named. I mean, it's beautiful. I love it.
Nobody more deserving. Who's more deserving of an Einstein visa than
The humanoid robot will be good for the studies of the literature and the mathematics.
I still haven't sorted. I still haven't sorted out some of that freaking UN speech, dude. I don't know what the hell is going on at parts of that. Really, I don't. But I allegedly have Trump derangement syndrome. So what do I know? Anyway.
Dude, the kind of people that have accused me of having Trump derangement syndrome. And I'm like, dude, I've known about this guy since the fucking 80s. Like, it's not none of this shit. Everybody on the fucking East Coast knew exactly who this dude was 40 years ago. I mean, legendary for fucking over every contractor he ever worked with and shit like that, dude. Just in the pocket of the fucking Russian mob up to his fucking tits, been over by Roy Cohn since he was a fucking, in his 20s and shit like that. I mean, all of this shit was out there. Everybody fucking knew it. Fucking greasing up Al Sharpton after the fucking Central Park 5 thing. Like, all of it was out there. And so much more. And no, to have like derangement about it, you would have to think he was something other than exactly who he is, which is a piece of fucking garbage from Queens who'd step over his own fucking mother, pick up $1. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, no, that's the first thing that got me in trouble is I kept calling him a real estate hustler from Queens and a Nepo baby at that, because that's what he was. And I knew people that were dealers in casinos, that were kitchen mechanics, that were security in casinos, and watched what happened in Atlantic City. Plus, look, at one point, we didn't have internet and New York was its own media sphere. And this guy was involved in it in many different ways and being reported on constantly. And I'm not saying the news is always legit, but back in those days, they used to have to get their facts straight. And sometimes he was literally feeding crap to the press himself. He's been on a 70-year-long PR campaign, right? And it's just it's so bizarre that people thought that there was any legitimacy to him to begin with, when it's like, I watched what he did to businesses. I remember the USFL. I remember, the Jersey Generals was a team he had partial ownership in. I remember Trump Steaks. I remember the 3 casinos that went bankrupt, which is almost impossible to do. I remember people having to sue to get paid, not just the Polish guys. You know what I'm saying? It's just on and on. Plus, his father was a slumlord, dude. I mean, and I'm not saying that we don't probably need slumlords here and there, but don't tell me this is the guy who is outside of the system. He is part of the system, a big part of the corrupt system, always was, always will be. And in fact, that's kind of what I like about him.
As a job, as a, what we're trying to do day to day, how do we effectively make that shift happen? Like, I think about this every day because it's something that I can't, we're making a change. I know as a matter of fact, we can see it. We're reaching people, things are shifting. But like I said, if you get to a point to where almost everybody is seeing it, but the system is so broken and they're so like, they just pull the mask off. We're a dictatorship. We don't give a shit what you think. We'll fucking shoot you in the street if you do anything about it. Now that becomes obvious. well, there's a violent force and we need to, and I still would argue violence is probably not the solution in that, as much as that may seem counterintuitive because of what they'll do to us, but we're not there yet. They haven't taken that mask off, so it becomes this moment where we need to find a way to make that shift without giving them the tools they need to shut us down. There's not an answer. I just think it's an important thought process. I just had a really great interview with Corbett yesterday, which I'll be playing today, about, a lot of this and swirling around the Great Reset, kind of Strait Hormuz, re-engineering the world kind of conversation. And, that's one of the things that we kind of keep butting up against, is it's how do we actually stop this from happening, even though we see it? That's what a lot of us are talking about.
Yeah. I mean, we had a similar conversation with James a couple of weeks ago. Tease and I did. Pasta's here, and I want to bring him up. Ladies and gentlemen, you know Craig Pasta Jardula. He's down in Peru with Fiorella Isabel from Truthwire. It's not the Convo Couch. It's Truthwire. Hey, buddy, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Hey, man. Happy belated birthday to you, TLAV, and happy birthday to you. Of course, Steve, I made the phone call on April Fool's Day, man. Great to be here with you guys. And enjoying the early conversation, just listening to you guys right off the bat. Great tweet yesterday, Ryan, about the whole and the whole tankers, right? This whole kind of holy cow, holy crap, the Eaglemans and the Brad Dohertys. Donald Trump is reshaping the whole infrastructure and whatnot. And Steve, to put the Gulf of Epstein, you always nail them, baby. The Gulf of Epstein. What a great fucking thing. But yeah, I mean, it's I got to be honest with you. It's kind of getting to the shit level, as my cousin Vinny used to say, as far as the way this controlled media is, going about these things. It's just, it's pretty frustrating right now. But we continue to do what we can do and cover the things we need to cover. I mean, not just because Fiorella is from Peru, but as we know, as we learned a long time ago, how Peru is so significant in the the lithium triangle, the fourth industrial revolution moving forward. How the United States and the West tries to get their grips in there. So it's very interesting being down here today. But thank you guys for letting me come on the show with you guys.
Yeah, man. Always welcome, brother. Well, what's funny is there's two conversations, and what you pointed to there first was, so now you've got this weird shift on Twitter, which is just, yeah, I mean, add it to the fucking list of things that we've been going like, there's a thing right there. And everyone goes, that's, we get pushed back on that then becomes the obvious thing everyone points to later, which is that whole red light, holy cow, fucking, where the Twitter guy came out and basically said, we're now going to be demonetizing and deranking people that use the red light and say this and steal content. It's like, well, that's not happening because these people, it's obviously not. So as I think you were on, Steve, and others pointed out, is this just some sort of problem reaction solution to be like, we're going to stop you from breaking news? But we'll keep letting them do it under a guise of stopping them while we stop you guys from sharing real information. Who knows? But that overlaps with what Pasta said too, which is part of it, which is like the current thing they're lying about is the whole Strait of Hormuz and the ships and using like the all ship view and saying, look at all the tankers. And it's like, well, those aren't tankers, but who cares about the facts today in the partisan game? I'm with you, Pasta. It's fucking frustrating, man.
Even if it was all tankers, it's still, I mean, where's the justification? Where's the mindset of the fucking Americans that it's okay to bomb women and children to fucking restructure the energy fucking, environment?
To engage in, as Ryan points out accurately, what is an obviously globalist project.
Yes. That's what's so crazy is then Alex and the rest are still coming out and sort of weirdly saying in some ways that we need to still fight for Trump and that we're stopping the globalist, but then at the same time calling what is happening the Great Reset. Like, this guy's worked himself into a fucking broken pretzel, and it's embarrassing because you can't keep playing this game on both sides of it. It's obvious that this is the Great Reset. He's even now calling it COVID 2.0, and it's like, I swear to God, he's watching Catherine, IMA, our show, your show, just repeating what we've been saying for a year. Even starting to use a lot of the same source material on these shows. Oh my God, finally showing source material on Alex Jones. Anyway, but the point is that clearly, it is this game of hype, and it is obviously part of a reorganization. Whether or not that's actually what's happening, like from Trump's perspective, or even at all, is what we should be asking. It could very well be part of this, but I still think they're blundering that. But back to the point about the ships, here I can bring this up because I do think this is really important. It was actually really frustrating that we were seeing this go around. Where is that?
Alex Jones really has turned into the "Leave Britney Alone" meme. Seriously. He really has. That's fantastic, Charles.
He looks good physically.
He's gained a bunch of weight.
He's back on the booze, dude. He's got liquor face again.
Yeah. Well, he stopped taking Ozempic, I'm pretty sure. And as Stephanie Seneff said, that's what it'll do. You'll blow right back up. Take that Ozempic and methylene blue, and then it's like, it's just funny how you can go from a time where we're like, big pharma drugs and not vetted and unsafe, and then here are two things we've never tested very well. Take them both. He said so. It's just fucking crazy. But this point it's just so frustrating. Like, this is everywhere. This is like one of these, I don't even know. There's a million of these accounts, like 300,000 followers, and they keep doing this. It's like, oh my God, energy takeover has now become the narrative because, like, as Steve and we were talking about that building idea before, it was like all of MAGA was talking about it. And, and I said right then, watch as they kind of latch onto this as like the excuse, like, oh, Trump is doing the winning thing, except the winning thing amounts to globalism, as you said. It amounts to every promise you were offered is the opposite, more government, bigger. But even if this turns somehow over the process of a long period of time to American preeminence of energy, that's the oligarchy. Why do you think that's Americans benefiting from that? But the point is,
I said that too. Is like, it's not like we're going to receive any of that money. It's not going to go into any of the working class, the poor people's pockets. So,
as always, the image you're seeing here, all I'm saying is that is the all ship view, right? This is what the actual view looks like when you put tankers. And that's a real-time map. You can do it anytime.
I love it, dude. I was going the fuck off on that yesterday morning. Didn't see a single map. I saw the breaking, all that shit, and I'm going, oh, they figured out what we were talking about 2 weeks ago. Okay,
yeah, right, exactly. God, it's so frustrating.
Okay, that's neat. But there's no fucking way. And I did look up how long it takes to reroute from the Strait of Hormuz to, Louisiana, pull up to Shreveport. And look, I'm sitting there telling Chuck O'Celli, like, hey, man, either there's an entire ghost fleet of super tankers just hanging out in the Gulf of Mexico, dry dock, something like that, waiting for an emergency, which would be insane for any company's bottom line. I don't care what your annual profit margin is. Insane to do that. Or they're fucking lying because it takes, in the best of all possible conditions, if you got to go through the Suez,
right,
that's a 20-day trip.
Which is through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is a huge issue because of Yemen. And, it's like this. And now you're seeing them completely circumvent that. And on top of all of that, before I even point this part out, that is still increasing your fucking gas prices. That is going to cause havoc on supply and demand, even if it's just circumvented around the Horn of Africa. That was a huge difference. And so that's my point, is that you can act like this is somehow in the American oligarchs' benefit, but that is an immediate detriment to your interest and will long-term not benefit you at all. The second point is, as this guy rightly points out, and I'm not even familiar with who he is, followed him because of the post, but I agree with this and I see the same thing as you and I have been pointing out every fucking week, is that the strait has been open from the beginning. It's been restricted. That's clear. That's been provable, right? But as we're now finding out even more, that there has been ships going through there because Iran has been letting them. It's been an effort to stop the ones that are fighting them. Now, post this recent blockade from Trump, which is so stupid because it was fighting to open the strait, but we're going to stop the strait to open the strait. It's just so stupid, right? But the point becomes, hasn't actually happened, which is my entire show last night. Was it the blunder or the real agenda, right? And so right now we saw what China went through, right? It turns out the two battleships or whatever they said they sailed through actually didn't happen. They turned it back, like the lies of the tankers he said went through before that. And so what we're seeing here is that this guy's perspective, and I saw the same thing. If you guys should look at the real-time map, there have been ships since then going in through the ports and out of the ports. Now, tankers, I'm not going to say I know that for whether or not, because I think tankers are the one that are really being restricted or dealt with. These are just regular ships. That's my point. That's the all ship view. But Trump said all Iranian ships to all Iranian ports. And so all I'm highlighting is another lie, another bluster of some fake blockade. These are all, even what Trump would tell you about the all civilization, these are negotiating tactics, but they're not. They're strong arm yelled threats with the hopes that they'll just back down, and they're not going to do that, And I just think it's so frustrating how these can be so damn obvious, as Pasta's pointing out. They're just coming out and just yelling these lies. But it's, the three of us have been pointing this out for a very long time.
Yes, I'm proud to say that the reason why this is kind of like cool for me to come on this show, it really is lifting up my spirits, because I feel like I'm part of this group that's been like, no, we've been consistently saying this shit for quite some time, and coming from different mindsets or whatever, I know that, Steve kind of he told me the other day when I was talking about, well, that was not really a leftist. And they're like, listen, Pasta, the oligarchs, the technocrats own everything. I think the leftist right thing is out the window. But I mean, still, you know what I'm saying? You know, obviously you understand like where I come from, what my mindset is. I'm in fucking Peru right now, for crying out loud. So
this is
for anybody to see it is important.
Teese's analogy for that is it's like fighting Godzilla's toe.
That's funny. Well, but here's the difference, though. That's a good way to look at that. But you know, like we've always said, it's not
big fucking toe.
Yeah, the idea is that the government pretends, right? Not that, I mean, people identify with being more liberal or more conservative. Like, that exists. People can be on one of these sides of the spectrum in their sense, not by the way the government frames it, right? So same point, there are, you know, like you're saying, like there are, I mean, there are even agendas that I think do align with it. The point is it's an illusion when it comes to the real government agenda and the real enforcement through it and our lives, you know, not that they don't exist or even that politicians identify with that themselves, you know. So it's people tend to take that as it doesn't exist, which then makes it feel like you're attacking their own personal perspectives, where what we're talking about is the government's perspective of it and using that divisiveness to keep us divided and, you know, while they're the ultimate enemy. You know, I think that's important because
I mention it, you know, Ryan, just to do the opposite, you know, to show that we don't have to be like, we can be friends. You know, I mean, I hang out with a lot of guys who consider themselves conservatives, Trump supporters, that kind of thing. So, you know, I try to kind of highlight to say, hey, man, it doesn't make a difference where we come from. We can still see eye to eye on certain things, understand what's right, what's wrong, and point out the, you know, the impending fascism that's coming to kill all of us, you know?
Right. That's kind of where I was saying is that, so, you know, the government trying to use your differences, whether that be political, religious, whatever, to keep you fighting yourselves. Whereas I'm agreeing with you, Pasta, is that everybody can identify with whatever they want to see themselves as. And then the point is, we've always all talked about, is have amicable disagreements, being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and consider their perspective, whether or not you agree with it, trying to understand where they're coming from. That's where we talk about, for example, you know, Iran or fucking Gaza, and you know, whether or not you can agree or feel like what they did was justified, you know, in their legally justified armed act of resistance. The point would be that you can still understand why they would act from that place, even if you disagree with why or whether it's justified. You know, and that's an important thing. A lot of people they just can't do that. They can't put themselves in somebody else's perspective. And I think that's been trained out of us, quite frankly.
Well, it was interesting. Go ahead, Steve.
People have been beaten over the head to not look at it from any other perspective than the allowable one that exists within their social group or their friend group or their political party or whatever it is. You've been instructed to look at any other point of view as an automatic trigger point or the enemy or anything like that. How long have I been saying that, you know, nuance has been fucking dead as far as the discourse goes?
Isn't the word trigger funny right now? You know, remember all that about like the snowflake and the trigger? And like, I think you pretty much coined the term broflake, right? So it's like, it's funny because look at what you can see in the right now. I mean, pretty much for the last fucking year, just triggered that one thing after another, but the terms just don't get applied. Like, I'm surprised you don't see more of the, you know, team sport left throwing that back at the right, because it's like you have every opportunity to, or they're fucking reacting. And it's just kind of funny to see the lack of self-reflection. But as always, to be clear, I think that's the minority right now. I really do.
Oh, they're there. They're there, hiding in the fucking bushes, just waiting. Don't worry about it. Those that's the thing I'm scared of most, too, is that they're going to swing this back around for handsome Newsom and the left, for the Democrats to come right back into play, and they'll get the majority of like low-informed voters, which is the majority of the voters in the United States. And I shouldn't even say voters; I should say citizenry, because your votes don't make a fucking difference anyways. But to use that to justify to put the other team in that's still working for the same people, has the same goal, just doing their end of their job.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, here's to see what happens. I mean, we're at an interesting point where, I mean, to be real about not what we know they're always been capable of and what they've kind of always done behind the scenes, but what Trump is doing in daylight, right? He's openly, brazenly going in directions, saying things that have been like, you know, if you even suggest that Iran is secretly doing that, that's a big deal, right? But now Trump's like, we're bombing bridges and infrastructure, and just like, you know, just outwardly changing, in some people's minds, kind of like the status quo. I hope that doesn't actually affect the majority, because that would be fucking insane to just normalize might makes right, which is kind of what they're doing, even though we do know that's kind of what they've always done. You know, it's that he is now normalizing that. So my point is, where we go next, who fucking knows? You know, Trump, another Trump, and I'm not even trying to suggest I think this is what's going to happen, but Trump just arguing that we're at wartime, so we can't, you know, like Netanyahu or
Zelensky.
Exactly. And so I'm honestly saying that doesn't seem that far-fetched at this point, because of how much they've already shown you that, well, nothing means anything should we argue national security.
Just 82-year-old pants shitting, fucking just doddering fucking Donald Trump going, yeah, no, I'm president for life. I hope I wish a motherfucker would. I wish a motherfucker would. Like, yeah, because to try to imagine the sycophants left justifying it, even though they'll bang on at any other point about constitution this or rule of law that, just the all hands on deck hypocrisy. You know,
we'll support him.
April 15th, 2026. It is Tax Revolt Day. It's the last day to not file your taxes. Yeah, so get on with it. It's also Wednesday, which means we're joined by not Reverend, not Doctor, filmmaker extraordinaire, and overworked editor T. Snyder. How you doing, my friend?
It's actually a pretty good description. I don't even have to go into things now. Like, overworked editor, man. Trying to do the actor thing also. I'm not a natural actor. I'm not like, yay, I get to in front of the camera. I'm like, oh my God, I have to be in front of the camera. In like a fake way. Then it's like, I gotta fake it. And you know, gotta make it happen. And it sucks.
Yeah. No, I get it. I do.
I'm gonna go feel the feels, like convincingly in a certain direction while a camera points at me that I also have to set up and monitor. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, so that's what I'm up to most of the time.
Okay. Yeah. Go over there and go make pretend.
No, pretending is fun. Acting sucks. You know, it's like you got to do a thing in a very rigid way in a particular technical composition that, generally speaking, people like, let's just go do the thing. It's like, nah, there's all this setup. It's like, yeah.
We have to fake it just right before we send you out there to pretend to be real.
Well, that's just, you're faking it to make it real, but I can't think of anything else that, like, because I've been like an industrial laborer. It's like I've been a line cook. It's like everything else, you doing something real to make it. This thing, you're faking it to make it real, to capture it, to synthesize it, to create it later. It's just like a weird emotional dynamic to engage with.
In the hopes that it draws out genuine emotions from the people that watch it.
Yeah, so it's a weird roundabout way of getting the thing. Just like a joke is like, hey, I'm going to say this sequence of words, and the response is you're going to go, ah! You know, it's like that's an interesting spell to cast on someone. Acting is kind of feels like the same thing, basically, is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
That's fair. Even protest feels like both at this point.
Sure, that's a segue into a clip, I guess.
Yes, it is, because we played the clip, I think yesterday, maybe Monday, of the ICE protests in Portland, where they had a cock and ball shaped piñata. Okay. And they were hitting the dick yada, the cock yada, the peen yada. The peen yada. They were hitting the peen yada with dildos.
What are they protesting, and for what?
ICE. They're protesting ICE. But Tease, you're never gonna guess what was in the peen yada that they were hitting with dildos.
Dry ice?
It was not dry ice. Good guess. Do you have another one?
No, it should have been dry ice, because then it would have been shooting out of the dick as they gradually beat it open with dicks, and then it'd be nothing but just like the fog of war that is like the, I don't know, mist.
You're putting a little bit too much thought into it, my friend. You're working a little bit too hard. One more guess.
No, I'm just saying that. Okay, well, if it actually has to be a thing, just tell me what it is. Because
You're right, Tease. It was in fact more dildos.
Man, I mean, they're original. It's layers of dicks, I guess. It's not. So this is comedian guy doing a bit on the thing you just did a bit on. Okay, here we go.
Adam Carolla discussing what happened at the
You
event.
guys, you've been keeping up with the ICE situation. I literally was reading it on my phone before I walked out on stage. In Portland, they're arming protesters with dildos. That's where we're at. Somebody's going to lose an eye to a dildo. Do you understand that? Do you understand? And they're going to have to explain to the grandchild, how did Pappy lose his eye? Korea? Vietnam? No, it's a hippie threw a dildo at him. Guy in an inflatable frog suit chucked a double ender. You got the business end, yeah. No, you hope it hits you flat. You hope you grab, the center, the handle, the grip. You don't want to get hit with the thing. I think it was uncut. He may have gotten an infection. It was like one of those European double enders. Yeah. Thing came from France. They smuggled it in through Canada. Next thing you know, some guy in an inflatable frog suit threw it at Nana. At Grandpa. I don't know. The Vietnam War, they protested when the National Guard was there. Some hot, skinny blonde would put a daisy in the barrel of the gun the guy was holding. Now a fat beats him with a dildo. By the way, I don't know what the future holds. This guy whipped out his butt plug and chased ICE around the corner with it. You understand the biggest insult you could levy 150 years ago to another American was you throwing your scarf over your shoulder and saying, "I said good day." You yelling at someone to have a good day was as far as we got. And now we're beating people with double-ended dongs. We're going to need some kind of course correction here, people. We're going off the edge here.
And dueling. We had dueling also.
That's true. That's true.
So it's like good day.
But you could also make a gentleman's agreement at the duel to both throw your shot.
Or you could just like hang out at high noon and get really fucking wasted and see what connects on the other side of a fateful. I don't know.
You show up in the middle of the fucking town with a piano.
Yeah. Fuck it. Just bring instruments.
I thought we were dueling. What the fuck is it?
Yeah, it's like, what? I thought you said duet. No,
you didn't,
no.
You didn't bring a piano?
Yeah.
I did. Oh, you fucking loser. Go get a piano right now.
Play. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. We'll settle it with banjos. I used to have a stick. They used to pass these out at Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival. But said pick banjos, not fights. Which I modified, and it said pick banjo fights.
Okay, so wait, this puts me in a weird place in my own mind because I've always wondered about the answer to this question. From like a voluntarist anarchic perspective, do people have the right to consent to a fight to the death? They do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't anarchy ultimately result in blood sports in a public arena eventually being a thing?
Depends on what community you're in.
Yeah, agreed. But I mean, somewhere in like some miscellaneous country that wants to like make that a UFC thing. Yeah, that'd be a thing if anarchy would. Yeah.
I mean, it's right now, currently. Have you heard?
Yeah, no, I know it already is on a variety of different levels of society, but it's not just like something that are like, hey, let's go watch the gladiatorial games or whatever.
Well,
I know they make fucking children fight to death for fuck's sakes, but it's like, yeah, it's one of those things.
Have you heard about the enhanced games?
No, it's like only on steroids.
Basically, it's something that Peter Thiel and a handful of other people put together.
Okay.
And it is. It's basically that.
On Memorial Day weekend 2026, the world of sport will change forever. The enhanced games, a new era where sport meets spectacle, where records fall and traditions are rewritten. The world's best athletes, fully unleashed and powered by science.
What does that mean?
Pursuing their full human potential in a safe and medically supervised environment.
It means these motherfuckers are juicing absolutely every quasi-regulated substance on the market before they begin their event.
Okay, but is it the actual world's best athletes doing it, or is it some like guy
It's
50th in line who's never going to see his day other than doing like all of the
exactly.
100%. They found like the guy who was going to go to life prison, and it's like, hey, you got one way out. Do all of the drugs at the same time on national television. We are there. That's the timeline we're in. Cool.
Buddy, yeah.
To become faster and stronger than ever before. Track, swimming, and weightlifting. Enhanced versus natural. All in one night with a record $25 million in prize money on the line. Staged on the Las Vegas Strip and built for the record books, the entertainment capital of the world awaits its next icon, including an enhanced fan experience where every attendee is a VIP. But not just in person. Experience the enhanced games from anywhere in the world with a new way to witness athletic greatness. Enhanced is taking over one of the biggest weekends of the year to showcase to you what our true human potential is.
That's the definition of enhanced, baby, right there.
This isn't just sport. This isn't just athletes. It's a revolution. And you can be a part of it. Together, we are enhanced.
Man, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Ain't that some old transhumanist bullshit? Dude, and it's just, how many years down the road are we from bionic enhancements or, Dave was tired of being 236th in the fucking 400 meters. So Dave got himself some robot legs. Tease, I'm going to need you to do blackface and be Geordi from Star Trek.
I think it's more like a Cyclops thing, but it's like another stupid prop I have to buy for the thing. But speaking of enhancements, it's basically just your mic moving onto the face. It's just
Butterfly
like made
in the sky. I can fly the Enterprise.
But I really do think we're like, no, with wearables, we're at the point of enhancements and augmentation and transhumanism being the thing that's trendy for the next like 5 to 10. And they can like slip out the occasional horror story just like they do with plastic surgery. And it's going to be just like overlaps. And it'll be really interesting to see body augmentation take off with 3D printing and stem cells and all the variety of different offshoots that can eventually come out of the cultural soup that they've created for us. And if we're locked down because of energy stuff, maybe we'll just go crazy and that'll be the new like form of tattoos. Who the fuck knows,
Detachable penis. You remember that song?
No.
You heard that song? Oh my goodness, man. Maybe
No. We don't need to spend a bunch of minutes on detachable penis. We can just skip right past the you're extra penis like heavy today. There's a lot of penises going on in this first 15 minutes of this show.
It wasn't.
It was dicks within dicks getting beaten by dicks who were using it to protest dicks. I guess that's the thing. They were protesting dicks, right?
I mean,
everything's a dick. I think that's the point they were making, right?
I did see. Yeah. I saw a sign on the fence in front of the ICE building that said "ICE loves cocks," and I think that may have been one of the main messages of the protest. Also, Tease, I don't know if you saw this or not. The final boss of Subaru owners, former ICE commander Greg Bavino. You know what I'm talking about? The wee man who had the literal SS coat made for him so he could stalk through Minnesota in the warmth.
I don't know, man. That sounds like all of them when they're at a press conference. It's like be short, stand tall, bark, give orders, repeat.
Okay, he was in the news quite a bit.
All right. I don't follow much of the shenanigans of the inner workings of the PSYOP theater anymore. I'm actually kind of out of it.
No, this clown. This is who I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah, he followed me on Twitter.
That's cool.
I'm like, you're either tracking me or you're going to be solely disappointed, because I did make fun of the dildo protest, saying that it seemed to be what the activists were saying is, if you're tired of the Trump administration fucking you, here, have a dildo, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like that, because it really did, if there's no real point to it, like it seemed like that's kind of what they were saying. And Greg Bavino liked that. He thought that was funny. So he followed me.
Just makes me think of other kinds of like ineffective protests, like interpretive dance or topless shit where you're wearing masks and doing formation dancing once again. And it's like, it makes me understand why they don't like artists, because if you put art in the hands of a bad idea and get a bunch of people behind it in the TikTok era, then you're gonna have some pretty fucking annoying protests going on, man. This is an ominous forecast for a technocratic future. We think it's gonna be like sleek, like Blade Runner, but it's not. It's gonna be Idiocracy meets Roger Rabbit. Yeah.
We should do a revisitation of Who Framed Roger Rabbit in a voice call one of these days. Do a Who Framed Roger Rabbit watch along. Everyone is required to take at least a gram of mushrooms. Like, not to take you over the edge or anything like that, but enough to make it actually funny.
Yeah, you have fun leading that.
And then we'll immediately watch Death to Smoochie afterwards. So Kurt Metzger is an unhinged maniac. We know that, right? This is all something that we've accepted and are aware of.
He yells punchlines in the buildup of frenzied sentences that touch on a variety of geopolitical issues and beyond. Yes.
Dr. Trump,
and
Medicine Jesus. Yeah. Written by Kurt Metzger.
I've been called to heal.
Doctor, will I make it?
I've been looking over your chart. All I can tell you for sure is that Candace Owens is a low IQ loser. She's not even as hot as Macron's wife. I think she's jealous because Brigitte has a bigger and more attractive penis. Then you got Megyn Kelly bleeding all over the place. People are saying Candace should be on a teeny weeny submarine. Sad, very sad. Dr. Trump, Medicine Jesus. You won't believe what a terrific show this is.
So this is because of like the meme that Trump posted of him like touching, like Jesus touching him or something. I don't even remember what it was.
Or as David Icke put, or not David Icke, David Knight, as David Knight put it, Trump has outed himself as Lucifer.
Yeah, okay. As a casting role, yeah.
Claiming the role of Antichrist.
As a casting role, sure, but like that guy doesn't matter.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But that's, symbolically to David Knight, that's what that said. He's revealing himself to be the Antichrist. But it has definitely boosted the sales of particular, early sales of Halloween costumes.
Trump Jesus.
Such as, Doctor. Because that was Trump's excuse, was that he had tweeted it out or put it, shared it on True Social or whatever, because to him it looked like he was like a Red Cross worker, doctor who was helping somebody that looked an awful lot like Jon Stewart to get better.
Well, that's why Jon Stewart was trending yesterday. I couldn't figure it out. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, not because he actually said or did anything funny, but because everyone noticed that the person that Jesus Trump was healing did look an awful lot like Johnny Beef Stew.
Jon Stewart could use some healing. He's kind of fallen off the rails in a variety of different ways. Not that he ever really had it completely. He was kind of just good at tap dancing and center stage.
He retired. He had that whole fucking petting zoo at his house in Jersey. He could go back to it and hang out with the animals, grow the beard back out.
I think it's
barefoot, grounding, smoking a lot of weed, not doing narrative control.
If I ever leave this world alive, well, thank you for the things you did in my life. If I ever leave this world alive, I'll come back down and sit beside your feet tonight. Wherever I am, you'll always be more than just a man.